You got the Christmas spirit yet? You feel like, this is our last week before Christmas break.
I know. This weekend I was like, okay, I'm going to really fully embrace it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the Christmas spirit, and I still struggled. I was just like, I don't know why. It always just makes me think of stress.
Well, we saw the big
pressure.
tree, you and I, the other night. By the way, I don't think we ever put that on social media.
I don't think we did.
No. I think I'm going to do that. I also took some video out of our window today of the snowfall. It was coming pretty hard there for a little while, and then, for whatever reason, it just stopped. But look at this.
I know, it's so pretty. That is so pretty. And yeah, it's already stopped.
We could put that with like Winter Wonderland or something. Or Santa
Do something
Claus
nice with it.
Santa Claus is coming somewhere.
Can we make it so like it looks like Santa and his reindeer are like flying through that?
Oh, I would love that. I would
Chris?
love that. It'll get us going. Chris is our CGI guy.
Working on some deep fakes right now.
Later today, we'll tell the story of Chris Stanley and this single, I'm going to say maybe the single funniest moment of my life.
Yep.
And it was one for the memory banks.
It really was.
It was during the recording of the year end that we do.
Yeah.
By the way, this is kind of interesting. I was thinking about this. I think this is the first time in my life that I'm not on air for any Hanukkah days. Because Hanukkah is so tied into the Christmas vacation, we're already off by the time Hanukkah
I think
hits.
it might even start on Christmas Eve this year.
I thought it was like the 23rd or something like that.
I think it's Sunday.
Well, when's Christmas Eve? Monday?
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, Sunday at sundown, December 22nd. That's crazy because you normally have it like leading into Christmas.
Yeah, and sometimes it's even over before Christmas hits. Actually, this is Vito's first Hanukkah this year, right? You got a Jewish girlfriend.
Yeah, I think I might be going to a Hanukkah party on Sunday.
I didn't know that they had Hanukkah parties.
Apparently, even though it's one of their like low class holidays, that her family doesn't.
Don't say low class. I think they.
It's like a lower ranking holiday.
It's like if we said that All Saints Day was a low class holiday for the Catholics. It's not.
Well, I think Sunday they do an opening night thing, so I might go for that, like kickoff.
Opening night. Congratulations on your Hanukkah.
Yeah, you're going to be the worst boyfriend in the history of Hanukkah.
So just opening night, huh?
Dude, do yourself a favor. Dress nice and stay quiet.
Okay.
Where's your girlfriend's family at?
They're in South Brooklyn.
All right, sweet. So, South Brooklyn.
Yeah, like, by like Coney Island area.
Yeah. I love that area.
So I'm looking forward to my first Hanukkah.
By the way, you know what? You're close to that pizza place over there that everybody loves.
Spumoni Gardens, yeah. I'm looking forward to my first Hanukkah. She's having her first Christmas, so we're trading.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice. I saw that you put up a picture of you, two of you in front of the tree, and then you took her out on my date night.
I did. I took her to the Brick Presbyterian Church opening. I mean, she's had a wild first Christmas so far.
Yeah.
She saw the tree. She did that.
She must be thinking this is what we do every year.
We do.
Hit every Christmassy event.
I think but it was a romantic night for the two of you, right?
It was beautiful. That thing was amazing. Like, it was just so. There was like a few hundred people there just singing Christmas songs. You see the lights go up.
By the way, he's saying a few hundred people that were part of the show singing.
Right.
Not in the crowd. The crowd is just packed up and down Park Avenue. But this has the feeling, and I try to remember who turned me on to this. It's driving me nuts. But it has the feeling like you live in a small town in Vermont instead of being on the Upper East Side. And then you get those parties like that in New York all the time.
I know, and that's like the best feeling. It's like when you get like the real neighborhoody feeling.
By the way, I just remembered who turned me on to it, Jill Lawson, because she's a long time. Well, that family's not very well. I should get engaged at a show. But you know what I mean? She's classy in a way none of us are.
She has class.
Now, Gail, sometimes she can pass for the class, but it's bullshit.
It's my class pass. I try to put it on. I was like, I studied theater in college.
Yeah. She can walk around and pretend she's like that. And there's certain people that can. I'm not one of them. You know what I mean?
You're just a knock-around dude, really.
Look, my problem is if I was in Vito's thing going to my first Hanukkah party, I'd give somebody a nut shot as a thinking that would break the
I
tension
think that's cool,
instead of creating more. Vito's all caught up in the Peyton Manning situation, and everyone just wants Peyton to leave nice. He may have another game, though.
Eli,
I'm sorry. I like everyone else. I forget that it's Eli, but the funny thing about it is there's never been a quarterback that everyone thinks, what a nice boy he is.
I like him if he retires at 117 and 117 is his record. Just not a losing record, not a winning record. I think it
Seems
says a
like
lot
him,
about
even
Yeah,
Steven.
it's him.
Even Steven. I can't wait till we tell the Chris story later.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to
I'm not sure
it.
what story this is.
You know what
You
story
know
it
what
is.
story
You
it
live
is.
the story, dude.
I mean, sometimes you forget what's happening when you're awake.
By the way, where were you at lockdown with the shed? Were you out of the city?
I was on Long Island.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, you want to hear like a weird kind of world's cross? So I was looking at the thing, and somebody who gave a big heart eyes to that, the Java girl, and I'm like, I can't have these two.
Oh my
And maybe it was because
God.
you were on Long Island. That's where she's from
Maybe
originally.
she was picking up on that.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a weird story about her. She's Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some little kids were walking down the street with their, Proddy thing, and they were singing "Jesus Loves Me, Yes I Know."
Mm-hmm.
She had never heard that song before. She goes, "What is?" Because everybody else at the coffee place starts singing along, and she's like, "What do you? How does everyone know this song?" I go, "How could you be an American?"
I know. Like, don't
The
even
Catholics
worry about.
don't sing that song.
They
though.
don't, but yet
I
we're
know the
all people.
I know the dreidel song very
Yes.
well. Like
I
there are
prefer it to
songs
some
that you
Christmas
know.
songs.
You know what I mean? I know old Negro spirituals because I'm an American, and those things are, there.
Yeah, it's part of our culture. Everybody's culture.
Yeah, you can't help it. You can't help but brush up against it.
But no, the Catholics, they're not that plucky, so they wouldn't enjoy a song like that.
No. They like some kind of middle-aged. You know what I mean? You just say,
In him with the Holy Spirit,
"Oh,
forever and ever.
some of you will burn for eternity, an eternity of fire, burning flesh and muscle too. The blood begins to boil.
So goth. So goth.
Don't tell your mom what happened here." Yes, it's very goth. It's very goth, and you either appreciate that or you don't. You know what I mean?
You gotta.
If you don't like it, it scares you.
Yes. You know what really scares is the Jays, Jewish friends of mine. Anytime they've been either at a Catholic mass, a Catholic funeral, what have you,
Right.
they're like, "You guys are creepy. This
Yes.
is scary." And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of part of their thing.
You're like, it's scary, but we're not really paying that close attention to it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have a hold on it. There's a difference between a church and a cult. And the cult is, you better do it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure at one point the Catholic Church was a cult. But now you're just like, yeah, shut up. You know what I mean? The church is like an old aunt who tells you things should be a certain way, but they don't.
You're like,
have
maybe
to
in
be.
the olden days we did that, but now it's different.
Yeah, now we're all like scooters and comic. I always like when people, like, you find out with different things, people panic. And at one point, they were comic books. Comic books. And I just was like, I wish they would have stamped them out back in the 40s now. I haven't been able to talk to Bobby Kelly since he went to Aruba. Or as he put it, Aruba, Jamaica. Oh, God, that song.
It's really awful.
But the Creeps tour, we're doing some dates next year. One of them that I guess they started selling tickets before I personally knew we were selling tickets is going to be April 11th in Gail, basically your hometown, Tampa, Florida.
Oh, very cool. Cool.
We're going to the Straz Center Saturday, April 11th. Creepstour.com for tickets. Creepstour.com. So back in Tampa, birthplace of the old Runaround show.
Yeah.
You know, from the pools to the beaches. We rule the pool and reaches the beaches. That was always a big thing with the signal. It was like, are we reaching the beaches?
You need to reach.
You got to reach the beaches. People are out there. They want to rock. I want to rock. Yeah. I don't know if I want to rock when I'm at the beaches, but I do want to rule the pools. What is it, Chris? You're handing me something?
Big guest.
Oh, I forgot. We have a big guest that's just dropping in here today. 6 new episodes of Mad About You come out this Wednesday, December 18th. I don't know why they say come out. I already have it on my TV.
Oh, all 12 episodes now?
Oh, no. I watched the first 6.
Yeah, so then there's new 6 coming up.
Wow, cool. Paul Reiser's here.
Ah, very cool.
Tell me why I love you like I do. Tell me who can stop my heart as much as you. We take each other's hand, we can fly into the final frontier. I'm mad about you, baby.
Paul Reiser is in studio with us. 6 new episodes of Mad About You come out this Wednesday, December 18th, only on Spectrum On Demand. Go to SpectrumOriginals.com for more information.
And, you know, Paul just nailed a joke that no one else has ever come up before. Chris is the mom. So that was really...
I'm happy to be part of the family here. And you can go to SpectrumOriginals.com and watch the first 2 episodes right off the bat. Then you got to figure out.
Out how they all come in.
It's kind of interesting. They're brand new to the original content world, Spectrum. So we are the first comedy they've ever done. So the good news is exciting for us to be part of somebody's ground floor and sort of help define a platform and a network. The sometimes downside is not everybody in the world has Spectrum.
Right,
So
of
I get a
course.
lot of angry tweets and messages of like, why can't we watch it? So and to which I say you have to either get Spectrum or move to Canada. They have the show there. The show is not available in Chicago, and yet it's available in India. So there you go. I wish that was a joke. That's not a joke.
I'll tell you, in New York City, they did a great job of promoting
They
it.
sure
though,
did.
Because
They sure did.
You know, I couldn't dodge it for.
No, you got to watch it. It's just a law. You know, Spectrum is a very New York. It's a very big market for them, and which is great for us. I grew up here, so it was. I was very impressed to see how big and wide our mugs were planted all over town.
You know, I think I even prefer the show now than the first run because I don't worry that there's going to be a divorce. I always used to watch going, I don't think these two are going to make it.
They've been together long enough.
Yeah.
You know, it's safe.
Yeah. You're at that point, you're like, what's the difference whether we divorce or...
Well, you know, we had, I think we actually got the line into one of the episodes. Yeah, we did. But when we came back to this revisit, we call it a revisit because it's not really a reboot. We're not trying to go back. We're not trying to recreate. We're just saying, where would this couple be 18, 20 years down the road? And, you know, and it starts with our daughter leaving for college. So when you take the kid out of the house, I went through this last year when my younger son went off to school. It changed. I didn't think about how it really changes the dynamic. It's not just that it's quiet. It's like the two of you looking at each other like, what were you saying 18 years ago?
Yes, exactly.
Remind me who you are. And so one of the thoughts you have to sort of really find yourself, which is the arc of this 12 episodes. But anyway, the joke that we had when we were talking about it is they're at this point in the marriage where, you know, if you want, you could walk away heads held high. 25 years, come on, you had a good run. Walk away, you still have your health.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you're so close to death, why not stick it out?
Stick it out, yeah, because you really do find out that your life, who cares? Either way, you're at a certain point, you know, what
I'm so glad we spoke.
Yeah, what difference does it make?
Yeah, well, the theme if there was a theme of Mad About You, what it was always about their commitment. That these two were not perfect. The marriage wasn't perfect, but what kept it alive was elbow grease. You just gotta work at it. And certainly 25 years into a marriage, and if your kids are out of the house, you could say, well, I don't want to fight about the mayonnaise again. You know what? How about you get your own place? I'll get my own place, and then we'll split a ride to the cemetery. Split a cab. But that's the easy way out. And the more challenging and more rewarding, hopefully, is to say, let's find ourselves. Let's find, there's a reason. You go back to any relationship. And I do this in my head a lot, You go back to square one. I said, wait a second. My wife, when we met, the reason you got together is because you found each other appealing, something attractive. So what was that? Who are you? And it's sometimes it's good to remember where it all started.
But it's weird because a lot of times it's just because you met at work. Or, a friend introduced you. I mean,
there's crazy reasons, but you still don't have to. You don't marry everybody you meet. So there's some reason you pulled somebody off the assembly line and said, there's a reason. And it's usually a good reason. Very rarely people go, I think you'd be torturous. Let's throw our dice in together here. But it certainly changes when you take the children out of the equation. And, it is worth it. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's great. And you get to travel and you get to it's the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that was interesting, and writing the show was really interesting, is like you think in the back of your head, well, we'll go back to who we used to be without kids. We used to not have kids. It'll be like that. But it's not, because you're not 27 and your bodies are not the same. Your drive is not the same. Your careers are not the same as used to be. So it sounds very heavy the way I just said it, but it was really, there's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And we had a great time writing these. And when we did 24 a year, it's busy. And
it's insane, right?
It shouldn't, I mean, for people with actual jobs, it's like, what are you complaining about? But it's hard, and it's really full time. We only did 12, which was a much saner schedule. But when you did 24, you knew going in that a couple of these are not going to be great. We're going to try. You don't throw the fight, but you're not going to hit it out of the park. 12, we go, you know what? They're actually all really good, and we would look at them when we're done with it. That's exactly what we meant to write. So I'm thrilled. I'm really proud of what we did.
I think it would still be a radical show if it was a new show that came out now. You know what I mean? There's something about, because there was always kind of an uneasiness with the show of, are these
That's
two?
so funny. I don't know that people. I don't know that anybody. I never heard that. I don't think that people are like, I was so worried. Because you kind of knew, well, the show is the poster. I saw the poster. It's the two of them. So I'm pretty sure they're not going to separate.
Yeah.
Is James Bond going to be in the James Bond movie? Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called that.
Yeah. I always thought that he's going to hit her one day. One day.
Well, vice versa.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get it. Well, there's a line. There's this episode where we did, it was based on an actual perpetual argument that I have with my wife that it never settles, and I keep trying to push the point. I go, no, I understand, but let me just try and explain you my point of view. And at one point, she's just fed up, and Helen turns to me. She goes, I got to tell you, one of us doesn't survive this.
Yeah.
It's like, you can say that for the whole marriage. One of us ain't going to make it.
Paul Reiser is in studio with us. 6 new episodes of Mad About You come out this Wednesday, December 18th, on Spectrum On Demand. SpectrumOriginals.com for more information.
And by the way, episode 6, you mentioned the name Cookie Rojas, and I literally jumped off the couch.
Are you a Philly? Are you from Philly?
I played Dream Week baseball down there, and Cookie Rojas was my coach. And my dad is like, I'm flying down for this, and that was like the most amazing thing to be coached by these guys that were even, my father was a huge fan of.
Wow, it's funny. Somebody reminded me. I just always loved the name Cookie Rojas, and I had his card when I was collecting baseball cards as a kid. But somebody reminded me that there actually was an episode in the original series 25 years ago where I did a Cookie Rojas joke, just in passing. And so I got it in again. And yes, in the episode 6 was I meet a guy who alleges to be a famous baseball player. And so we started rattling off names. And I myself was surprised with how many names were coming. And they were all just from that period of my life when I was really into baseball and baseball cards. It's like, you know, Luis Aparicio, Zoyo Versailles, I was very proud of. So
those are the obsessions you have when you're a kid because you don't have a job. So
yes, you have a lot of time.
You have a lot of times to say this thing.
And then
is
all of a sudden
important.
you meet girls and you go, you know what, cookie's not so important anymore.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, one of my favorite times that I've had listening to Sirius XM, the Beatles channel, when you went on and did that thing, because you went in to each album and what it meant to you and that thing, and I'm like, that's the thing that I love about music most of all. You know what I mean? That thing that becomes like, this is more important than maybe even I treated it, you know, especially when you look back on that.
Well, and the Beatles, I mean, I really love listening to I only listen to there's like 3 or 4 stations on Sirius that I'm on all the time. Yours, of course.
Yeah.
And Beatles. And at first I remember thinking, well, how are you going to do a whole thing of the Beatles? And like, they do such a good job of curating and finding other artists talking about what the Beatles did and how they influenced. And there is no other, I don't want to say band because there's so much more than a band, but there's no other phenomenon that was so deep and that you couldn't do. I mean, yes, I adore Sinatra and I listen to Sinatra, but it's not what the Beatles were. And I mean, here you have day after day people talking and people who you know and respect out there talking about what it meant. And I finally got around to watching the movie Yesterday about the Beatles, you know, and I only put it off because I knew I was going to love it, but I was like waiting for the right moment to sit and watching it. You just, it's such a great concept. Imagine a world without the Beatles music, and if you were the only one who knew it. And it's so clear that the world would not be as good. The world is better, and we're all united. I mean, you go to any planet. I mean, you go to any part of the world, and I've done this. I've been in different, and people pull out a guitar, and you're going to sing Beatles songs.
You're going to sing
That's
along.
what comes up.
I also love that it's like beyond generations too. Like
Yes.
all kids go through a Beatles phase,
Sure.
which is really sweet. I mean, even little
kids love the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you could play that music for them.
Yeah, it's still
and they love it.
Why does it resonate
But,
that way? I don't know.
I mean, obviously, you had a band filled with geniuses, but the other thing, and a producer who was an absolute genius. But I think I always find this amazing. I've talked to some of the greatest rock stars come through here, right? And they sit down and they tell this story, and each one is the same. They're at a certain age, and it's normally between like 7 and 14. And the Sullivan Show comes on, and their life changed. But we don't have that unifying.
Well, that's what's
thing.
interesting about what you said, Gail. That and we have that of people of a certain age have that moment because we lived not just through the music, but that phenomenon when they came and, you know, post-Kennedy assassination, so we needed to be uplifted. But you're right. The kids who are 7 and 10 don't have that history. So it is, above and everything else, it is the music. There's something in the music because they're just perfect.
But the interesting is they'll go back and they'll love the early stuff right away like a kid. But this is the band who grew with their audience, which is a very difficult thing to do because you could grow away from your audience.
And what becomes so impressive and astounding is you realize how short that window was.
Yes.
We're talking about 64. I mean, they were in 62 maybe. They started, but 64 that we knew them from Ed Sullivan to 71, so 7 years. You know, how quickly do 7 years go in our lives now?
Right.
And it's like, wow, all that music was written. And what I never knew, there's so many great stories on the Sirius Beatles station about other songs that they wrote for everybody else and gave them away.
Right, Paul.
And you think it was really 63, 64? They would churn them out and give this to Peter and Gordon, give this to the Stones, give this to Jerry and the Pacemakers. Like, really, you can just write that many songs?
Well, I think Paul was even like, this is a song that would have suited us 2 years ago, but not now. So I'm gonna give it the Badfinger. You know what I mean? Like he was.
I read Tom Jones's autobiography, memoir, which was really fun. It was really, because a lot of memoirs look really written, and that one really sounded, I don't know him, but it sounded like him talking. But anyway, he talked about, I'm pretty sure I've got this right, that Paul McCartney had offered him Long and Winding Road. and he said, he goes, I am what you call a schmuck. He goes, I said no to Long and Winding Road. It's like, yeah. And then, think about, so it's astounding how good that music was and how. I was just at somebody's party. They were sort of like a guitar party. I don't play guitar, but everybody brought out guitars. And the first thing you go to, and you're all singing Beatles songs, and you all know them, and you all don't quite know the same verse, and and it's just there aren't that many things in the world that bring us together. That's really what it is. I mean, people, you can warm over it, and you feel drawn in.
Well, ever since my kids were little, we go to Strawberry Fields, particularly the night for John. And there's just all kinds of people. There's no one in charge, and you're singing Beatles songs all night long. Hard to believe next year is 40 years. 40 years.
I think about that all the time, and I just like, well, that will be that is extra significant because that means he will be gone as long as he was here. 40,
wow.
He
That
died
didn't
at 40.
occur. Yeah.
So like that's how old we are.
Yeah.
That we can remember. And I mean, I remember as a kid, this is a kind of perverse thought for a young kid to have. But I was thinking, I'm looking forward to being 60 and hearing John write new songs at 70. And then you go, oh, that's only a part of what we lost. But it's like, we've lost what was coming.
Right.
But yeah, it will be 40 years. And I had a very surreal moment. I once, Yoko did our show. And she was really great and gracious and generous and funny. She was the one pitching the jokes about, people think I broke up the Beatles, so maybe you could do a joke about that. And I've been telling everybody, whatever you do, don't pitch that. And then she pitched it. I went, okay, I guess we do. And so we stayed in touch, and she was very sweet. And one time it was a beautiful day in New York, and I was in town, and we got together, and we just went for a walk in the park, and we happened to walk by Strawberry Fields. And of course, every once in a while I go, holy shit.
Yeah, right.
And I was just standing in a very electric moment of all this love and affection and emotion coming her way. And she was there. And it was just kind of surreal and absurd to me, but so moving. And part of what hit me was like the humanity of it. It's like, well, we all idolize. I mean, there's nobody I ever idolized more. And yet, it's above and beyond everything else. It was this woman's husband.
Yeah,
this is the widow. It's like, it kind of, in a good way, takes the magic off. It's like, yes, he was magic and made all these things, but what journey must she have gone on? And how is it to live with that people, talk about your loved one, although
100% of the time. Yeah.
I always think that with like Plastic Ono Band is like those songs to me is just like, it's just like him and her.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
And all of his songwriting was there. So I like that stuff is just kind of my favorite.
And it's just so great, right? I mean, that
so good.
stuff is so great, but it was being compared to the Beatles. But
Right.
Yes, and there was something clearly magical about the Paul John connection and the four of them together. But I'm sure you've seen the Imagine and the documentary, and there's the sequence where he's just written Imagine and he's pitching it before he's on his way into the studio, pitching it to Phil Spector, and he's sort of like downplaying, and he goes, "Yeah, it's like Imagine this, Imagine that." You'll hear it. It's not bad. And you go, "It's not bad," and it's actually the song of the. I think it was voted the song of the century, and also there's another human moment. Like, yes, it's Imagine and it's John Lennon, but in the moment, is a guy who just wrote a song and he hopes it doesn't stink.
Yeah.
And he hopes that this other guy likes it. It's like, that's how, everything comes down to a human level.
Yeah, it does. So great to see you again, man.
Who knew we would go there?
Yeah.
We'd go to this very
Yeah, I know, but I'll go
emotional
back
place.
and say it. If you get the opportunity to hear that, I just thought you were terrific on the Beatles show. Really.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them, and they're always fun, and it's fun to share that. And yeah, it's a quick story. When we had Yoko on the show, we had one joke that my character was saying, whatever you do, don't talk about the Beatles. She's not only about the Beatles. She's not into the Beatles. Don't talk about the Beatles. Of course, she opens the door and we hear a Beatles song blasting through. So we said, we got to get I Want to Hold Your Hand. Well, you can't get I Want to Hold Your Hand. And it's $1 gazillion, and you just don't get it. she literally made a phone call. I go, we got it. It's like, okay, there you go. Thank you,
so
Yoko.
cool.
Just make a call. But anyway, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I hope you get to see the rest of the Mad About Yous. They'll be out Wednesday, and enjoy them.
6 new episodes of Mad About You come out this Wednesday, December 18th, only on Spectrum On Demand. SpectrumOriginals.com for more information. Paul Reiser, thank you
Nice
so
to
much.
see
See
you.
you soon. That's the band that Paul Reiser gets a kick out of. Any band that ever even came, I mean, like, I love the Stones, but you can't look at anybody who was huge. In some respects, maybe a Michael Jackson, but I don't know if
Right.
anybody, you know. And
Michael Jackson has that cultural reference point where you're like, oh, anyone could probably talk about the songs.
right.
But like I was saying, I feel like everyone goes through a Beatles phase. You know what I mean? Like everyone puts their heart in it, even if it's for a little while of their life.
Yeah. I think the mass appeal thing, the difference, I think, of course, Michael, when he was with his brothers, they were almost like a backup band. But you could never say who was the leader of the Beatles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it almost fucked up other bands because they were like, well, who's the John, who's the Paul of this, and we should come together with this, and these two guys should do. And you're just like, no, you can't copy that thing that they did.
Yeah.
You know? But also, I don't know if we'll ever have anybody that would be able to go from the littlest kid in the family to the grandmother again. You know what I mean? Like, we're just not that connected.
Yeah.
Did you see how proud he was when you said about little kids loving the Beatles? Let's go back to, Gail came up with a good point. It's the music is so great. But don't you think, I mean, there's never, like, Bowie tried to keep, Bowie would be like, okay, I'm dropping this persona and going into this persona. I'm not even sure if the Beatles knew that they were doing that.
Yeah, I think they were growing up and changing.
And at
their-
a time that the world was changing so
Yeah.
much, where suddenly everyone in a generation would go, we're against pollution.
And
we're
like-
against, racism.
how we kind of talked about, we've talked about this before many times, of like the jump off of kind of youth culture, because they were that age. It feels like the focus of the world aged along with him. Like it makes sense to me if you put it like that, where it's like if what popular culture is
Yeah.
youth through teen years, through young adulthood, through exploration, through all the phases that they went through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the whole world was, a certain percentage of the world was a certain age, because literally the boom of after the war, everyone around the world who was involved in the war was like, we got some catching up to do. You know what I mean? We're 28. You know what I mean? We better have a kid. We better have another kid right after that. So suddenly there was all these kids at the same time because the entire world was involved
Yeah.
in that fucking war. So you did have suddenly this massive generation. I'd seen something one time where they said like that generation is moving along like I think it was like a pig that a boa constrictor had swallowed. It's just moving. So whatever the focus of the baby boomers,
Sure.
and that's where you come from this thing now where the Zoomers, which, I mean, let's face it, all the other fucking names are made up. They make no sense to call someone a millennial or a Generation Z. But this literally was a baby boom. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it literally was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like
Also, I would say Zoomers is one of the words. Like, what is a Zoomer?
I don't know. I
Why
have
did
no
they choose it?
I think they just do it. I mean, what was it? Generation X?
Yeah.
Gen X.
Gen X was just stupid as, like, we don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I guess Reality Bites is out. We got to figure out what to do with it. But the weird thing is, no matter what generation you are, you have to go back and compare yourself to the baby boomers and the Beatles. And you have to say to yourself, okay, well, Apple computers, that's our Beatles. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have a thing where you're just trying to say, how do we measure what
Right.
we're doing? Because you You can't have a band to do it. In a weird way, like Michael Jackson was only because of MTV. Because who the fuck would care how you were dancing if you were just listening to records? But because you're watching it, you're like, well, Michael's doing something. At least he's not just standing there, you know? So, I mean, all these things have to do with something. And the Beatles, and isn't it weird to think that we really never had like a giant amount of British entertainers in this country at all before the Beatles? And now it would seem ridiculous for you to go, who cares what the English are doing? Right.
Yeah, we so closely associate them with any art or pop culture that we're involved with.
Yeah. Now, though, you know, with the whole Brexit thing.
What's going on there?
I think it's going to set off what I call Texas, where Texas is going to spin off and do their. I read a thing
Scotland's
about
going to be free soon.
Brexit the other day that Scotland might just say, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, my very good friend is Scottish. They're very excited.
About having their own country?
Yep. They're all bravehearting it up, and they're very excited for themselves.
Finally, freedom.
It is funny how many times that we're against the English in any movie.
I know.
Like, you don't have to bring it up to me. I'm with you.
These goddamn redcoats.
Now, am I crazy when I think like the new Beatles, if you're going to look at it this way, is the Creeps?
I think you guys are.
Yeah.
If you had to cast each of you as a Beatle.
Well, Florentine is definitely George.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I kind of see what you're saying. Especially just vibe and attitude.
Yeah. And that's the only one I could definitely put it on.
Yeah, just definitely that.
I guess because the Beatles had, the quiet one, the funny one, the smart one, and the Jewish one. So I think the Jewish one would have to be Boss. Coming home to Florida. Hope you can make it, Gail.
I know. I really want to.
You ought to get back together with the kids that you grew up with.
I would love. Hey, Greg in Savannah.
Hello, Bennington.
Hey, man.
Hey, there was a logical reason for the term Gen X. It was considered to be the 10th generation of the country. If you were to go by every 20 years as a generation, that's what they apply to it.
But that's no reason for a generation. You know what I mean? You're just, again, reflecting something. And Gen X never took it upon themselves. Millennials have kind of said, I'm a millennial. But
yeah, good and bad. It's like at least we have.
Well, what am I going to do? I'm a millennial.
Yeah. I feel like it's gotten to the place now where everything was like anti-millennial. And now I feel millennials are like, fuck it, I'm a fucking millennial. And I think that's because they're growing up. They're not the young guns anymore. And so, like, they're just they can step back. The pressure is off. These Zoomers are crazy. Aren't they nuts?
They do weird things.
Now, Adrian said she's been a Beatles fan her whole life, and she thinks She Loves You is the best song of all time. It's a fucking great song.
It's a really good one.
You know, it's very weird. I've brought this up before. I grew up with a Beatles album being played at every fucking party I was ever at. And that was something that was called the Blue Album, which has been forgotten about, which is a greatest hits package. There was a Blue Album of everything post-1966, and everything pre-1966 was the Red Album. So have you ever seen those two album covers before?
I have.
Because they're looking down from the same spot, and you can see one, they're just brand new and happy to be there, and the other one they're like, we got to get the fuck out of this band. It's almost like a freshman in high school and a senior in high school. But we all listened to the Blue Album. We didn't go back and listen much. Like, you would never be at a party and someone would put on the early Beatles music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But this one, okay, so the other one is like the earliest, and this is like the second tier.
The blue one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue one is the one that we listened to because we, did acid and smoked hash.
Sure.
And you certainly weren't going to do that and listen to the early Beatles. But now I've gone back and I listen to the early Beatles quite a bit. Fucking love it.
No, I love it so much.
Can't believe how good it is.
It's like perfect, simple, like hits you in your heart songwriting.
I mean, there's got to be 20 songs or more where I'm like, well, that's genius in a pop way. Genius. Is there anyone besides Michael Jackson that you think you would say you could compare to the Beatles? I'll put this out there to the world. 844 Rock God, 844 Rock God. Think about it for a moment and pick up the phone and astound us. 844 Rock God. A band or even a single performing artist who you could say equals or, dare I say, better than the Beatles in all the ways that it matters. You know, it's a very, very hard thing to pull off.
I'm thinking of artists who I feel come close as far as influence or their lasting legacy, but no one you can really say, is that like explosion that the Beatles were.
Here's the interesting thing. I went and read the Elton John book, right? Mm-hmm. And Elton John was a massive star in a way that we can't. There's just a couple every decade. And you look at how short that period was. You know, he had this very creative, they're not, paying attention to me part. And then I'm bigger than everybody. And he was. Yeah. And then, he was around playing those songs forever after that. But it's not a long run. And only really, look, when I was a kid, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road came out when I was like in 9th grade or something. And people are like, well, this is this generation's Sgt. Pepper. I go back to it now, and there's a lot of songs on there that you're just like, oh. You know what I mean?
It just doesn't age well as compared to...
I don't know whether it even did at the time. It's just not as good as what it was being compared to.
Right.
There's not even a lot that, I think is like, oh, that's even a good tune. Let's go over to John in L.A. John.
Hey, John.
Hey, Bennington.
How's it going?
John, you got to pull this one out now. You've got all the pressure in the world on you. And after I do you, I'm going to go to Earl, who I know who is going to say,
Well, my thought was, and this depends on your definition of popular music or pop music, but Tom Petty is incredibly...
Great songwriter, unbelievable songwriter, maybe my favorite songwriter of the last 30 years, but not that massive cultural appeal.
No, there's people who love Tom Petty at that level, but it's not most people, it's not majority, and I feel like you couldn't open up a conversation about Tom Petty with most people and get a lot of response.
Right.
The way you could with the Beatles, where you're like, okay, everybody knows the Beatles, let's move on.
At any point, I could have talked the Beatles with my parents.
Right.
And then my mom would have said, I think Paul's the cute one. Earl Douglas, I'm going to go to you. Now, you understand what I put out there, right?
Yes.
Somebody that you would say they are better than the Beatles. You understand what that even means?
Yeah, that's a high bar.
Is it to you? Because you never seem to be much of a Beatle fan. I've never seen you wearing Beatle boots.
Never.
It's been a problem.
I know he likes Beetle Bailey.
That's a completely different thing, Earl. That fucking dude was in the army forever. And he was there's a Beetle Bailey thing on the cover. He's doing the white supremacy sign like Chris always does some pictures.
Do that.
For me, as a kid, the closest thing for me was the Jackson 5. They were everywhere. They were on lunchboxes. They were on TV. They had a cartoon.
But you know why? They were marketing the copy of the Beatles. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was an attempt to go, let's make our own Beatles. We've got these 5 children. What did the Beatles do? I think the big problem with that kind of thing is you do get stuck being compared, and you're not going to beat the guy who came first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I have artists that I feel like came in the wake of the Beatles that I would go, oh, okay, I would put them at the same level, but it's like because the Beatles exist, or even if they're at the same time in the competition.
Well, give me one.
Like, I would say the Beach Boys have that kind of cultural impact. People know them. You could discuss Beach Boys songs. Most people could name a dozen at least. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. But that I feel like that's almost second tier because A lot of things felt like it was in response to the Beatles, like there was like in competition to the Beatles.
Although maybe even the Beach Boys were out before the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because it was both like early 60s. But, the Beach Boys were locked into this this weird West Coast thing.
Yeah.
Because, nobody on the East Coast knew what surfing was or even knew much about California. And it was the guys that they did the Jersey Boys about were like the East Coast.
Like Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valli and the what?
Four Seasons.
They were the East Coast.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it kind of makes sense is like, yeah, weirdly, it was very, very regional. And also, I think most people would have never looked at Mike Love and said that he was the leader of that band, even though he was the lead singer. You know what I mean?
True.
It was a very weird thing of all these brothers, and the one brother isn't a brother. You know what I mean? The guy is singing out front, doesn't even have the best voice in the band. It's a very weird band to figure out at the end of the day. Oh, one guy doesn't travel. He's just nervous, and he doesn't travel.
Let's go to Tommy in Illinois. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Bennington, how you doing?
Yeah.
Now, if you're using the bar of, to your parents, could you talk to your parents about it? This band probably doesn't qualify, but for me growing up, it was Zeppelin.
All right, now this is the interesting thing about Zeppelin. At least with Zeppelin, you could name all four guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
believe it or not, most bands aren't like that. Most bands...
True. Most bands that you say you like, you're like, maybe you get two. And then you're like, the other two I like too.
Yeah. I mean, there's gigantic bands. Here's an interesting one. Coldplay. No one knows who the other Coldplay guys.
No.
Even the lead singer of Coldplay goes... I think he's been with the band since the beginning. I would love to see Coldplay go out, have four different guys, and see if anybody noticed.
Yeah, no way. No way I would recognize one Coldplay.
Led Zeppelin, I would say this. They were the Beatles of hard rock. Like, they took the Beatles thing
Yes.
and said, in a lot of ways, you could even say they were the Stones of hard rock, too.
Right.
But they took the Beatles thing and aimed it at a certain demo, but it didn't appeal to all the demos the way the Beatles did.
And they ran counter. They said, we are not a singles act. We are an album act. We want you to buy those albums. We want you to see the show. They didn't make very public appearances other than the live show.
That is an interesting thing, but it also goes to show just the way that I said that, Michael, you had to have MTV. It was FM radio with Zeppelin. And then they're like, isn't the other radio kind of lame? Like, this was almost a divisive thing.
Right.
Where we were talking about the Beatles as being unifiers. Already, like, Zeppelin is like, those guys aren't fucking...
Yeah,
cool over there.
I think that you could almost say that with a lot of bands, right? Like, there's something that it's like, okay, this is our cool circle or something. But there is something about the Beatles that is for everybody.
By the way, I saw that yesterday thing that he loved.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't crazy about it.
Oh, really?
I thought they loved that. I thought they missed the point.
I loved the premise because I saw the trailer and I thought that it would be really good, but I haven't seen it.
I saw it on a plane. Tried to open the door.
Oh God! So you really didn't like it?
Well, yeah, now that you think of it, yeah. But I really thought I could jump from there.
Jeff in New York.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
How's it going?
A couple things. The person I wanted to bring up was Bruce Springsteen.
Who?
Bruce Springsteen.
Okay.
As far as popularity and reaching different cultures, being in movies, whatever, just popularity. However, what I wanted to bring up was the thing about the Beatles was one of them, the main one, was assassinated. So maybe we should take that in consideration of finding the next best band. Like if Springsteen was killed today, would we feel the same way we did like when what's his face was killed, Lennon?
All right. Well, first of all, you have to remember he also was killed 10 years after the Beatles broke up.
Right.
So, it certainly, I mean, you can't even imagine if it was his peak. But I could tell you as a person who was alive and paying attention, that thing just ripped the hearts out of everybody. The interesting thing for me, the night John Lennon died, and Earl knows that they almost did a movie about WNEW with that, and Tony Soprano was interested in playing Scotzo, the guy that Earl used to be the producer for. And the reason why is this, and I was outside of Philadelphia listening to Philadelphia radio. FM radio was, you play the music, you do a short break, you're out. You know what I mean? Too much talk is a bad thing. That night, in my opinion, the very early stages of what would later be called FM talk was born, where people were on the radio, they were crushed, the people calling were crushed, and they would just open up the telephones and let people talk. And I stayed up the entire night long listening to FM radio. My friend, who later turned out to be Don Vito, he recorded the whole night, and I wish I had those. I never listened to him. He said to me, I recorded that thing. And I was like, oh, and it wouldn't even dawn on me, because it was so heartbreaking. And they would just, people would talk about their own personal. It was like the same way that we were sitting here talking with Reiser, except for the fact that if somebody had just died in the Beatles that moment, you know what I mean? So, I mean, people were just crushed, and you were just like, this thing is way more important than I could even wrap my head around. I think Bruce Springsteen is a gigantic star. I don't think Bruce Springsteen ever thought Springsteen Mania took place. Maybe after his, seventh album, Born in the USA?
Yeah, Born in the USA was the big monster one. But that took, 14 years?
Yeah, it was something
after
like
the first
that.
album?
And it was so big that Bruce went, I'm shutting this shit down. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be this big. You know what I mean? And he got rid of the band. He laid the band off for the next fucking 12 years and went out and just did these more experimental albums. He's like, I don't want you taking pictures of me making out with my girlfriend on a fucking hotel thing where I'm in my underwear. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to walk outside my underwear. I don't need this. Let's jump in. Let's go to Chris, line 7. Chris has got an interesting one.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys. In terms of craziness or hits, I don't think that they compare, but you guys are talking about spanning across ages or genre. What about like U2?
U2, giant band. I also think did the same thing after the Joshua. And I thought it was a cowardly move. I'm going to fucking tell you the truth. I remember being so moved by the Joshua Tree tour. I'm like, this band is one of those bands that you think is going to be more important than music. And by the time they got to, what was the other one with Mysterious Ways on it?
Octung Baby.
I'm like, what are you fucking doing? What are you know what I mean? What the fuck are you doing? I literally was at this listening thing that only radio people, was a very big place, but there was only like 200 people, and they were practicing their tour. They used to do that in Florida. All bands would do that in Plant City in Florida. And Bono was doing the gold suit and everything and looking at himself in the mirror, and he was like doing Elvis or James Brown, and I remember just giving him the finger, and there was like few enough people that he looked over like, what the fuck is that for? And because I felt like, you dodged it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still feel that way. Most people would disagree with me. You can't tell a band any direction to go to, but I thought they went, oh no, I don't want to take this Jesus thing any bigger,
I wonder what, it was just fear of, it getting out of control.
It is out of control. Success is out of control. You know what I mean? If you look at, we just had Tarantino in. When he made Pulp Fiction, he was like, well, now what am I supposed to do? Pulp Fiction 2? You know what I mean? I gotta take some time off. I can't fucking match.
I remember when they did the video, The Streets Have No Name, they did it on
I know that's the fucking radio hype. Believe me, I was part of it.
Brian in Tennessee.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Good. I was going to say the Eagles.
The American Beatles, the band they call the Eagles.
Four guys had hits.
Well, there were more than four. That's one of the things to remember. And where would you put the Eagles in that, Earl? I'm going to ask you. You were around for that. Would you take it to the limit one more time? Or should we take it easy? 844 Rock Guy. 844 Rock Guy.
I'm going to vote take it easy on this. I don't think that they are at the same level.
Put up the... obviously, they had two gigantic albums. Two. One of them was a greatest hits album that came out four albums. After four albums, they put out a greatest hits album, which became the biggest selling album of all time. The reason why that can happen is no one's really paying attention to the first four albums. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then Hotel California, which was a massive, crazy fucking hit that was very quickly eclipsed by who, Earl?
Rumors, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. So there was an album that came right behind it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you went from, and the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac were like touring stadiums together, and people started going, should the Eagles really close this show? You know what I mean? Like it started out, of course, they're on the Eagles tour, but by the end of the tour, you're like, maybe, just maybe, hear me out.
Do you guys want to start a switch chant?
Because these guys...
Switch.
These Eagles don't even have any hot chicks in their fucking bed. All right, Hotel California, read us off the fucking, just the list.
The track list.
The track list.
Here's the track list for Hotel California is...
What are you doing, that to start time?
Yeah.
Okay, don't.
One, Hotel California.
Okay, all right, let's just say it. Classic, fucking bigger than words.
And a song that every human knows.
New Kid in Town. Life in the Fast Lane.
Great fucking song. Not a song everybody knows, but the song you want to fucking hear when you're there. So you got two major fucking songs, two major hits. No, two major songs and a fucking hit. New Kid in Town was a fucking hit.
Wasted Time.
Great fucking tune.
Then Reprise of Wasted Time, then Victim of Love. Pretty Maids All in a Row.
Love that song, but it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Try and Love Again.
No, that's a problem.
And then The Last Resort.
Really? You're just trying to do the same thing over with, the Hotel California verse? I mean, it's not a perfect album. Would you agree or disagree, Earl?
I think it's a perfect album. I really do. I think
you're the world's biggest Eagles fan.
I'm not the world's biggest Eagles fan, but song for song, I always had a beef with Wasted Time for a couple of reasons.
Why?
What about the reprise?
I thought it rips off Gamble and Huff. It's a Gamble and Huff song.
Everything can't be reparations, Earl. No, I gotta say, the Try and Love Again doesn't do it for me. I do love Pretty Maids All in a Row, but it's kind of a heartbreaking song. Not crazy about The Last Resort. It's a big album for them.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to compare them to the Beatles? I guess only Earl would be the only person.
He just said they're better.
Yeah, except for Gamble and Huff. We're bigger than
Josh in Santa Cruz. Josh in Santa Cruz?
Josh in Tennessee.
Yes.
Okay, that Santa Cruz is also
They're
Tennessee.
very
Who's running the
close.
phones over there, Vito?
Yes.
No wonder Chris does all the work.
I know what the difference between Tennessee and Santa Cruz.
By the way, how adorable was he today when he said that? He's tired of hearing about how much work Chris does. You never give him credit, though, so that's always funny. All right, go ahead, Josh, in Tennessee.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
To you, too.
I was growing up with a cult following, and it may be a demographic, but we all know it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
What do you mean? Because
on now.
But you realize that wasn't even his, that he took that bumper sticker and made it his own.
Wait, he didn't really... I thought he came up with that. He's just fucking writing lyrics on bumper stickers. This makes it even worse.
All right, stop acting like you hate him. He's a he's co-album guy. All right, thanks. No, we're not going to compare Buffett to him. I mean, he's fun for the... What are they, parrot heads?
Parrot heads.
What you got from what? Deadheads.
Deadheads.
Yeah.
Scott. Hey, Scott.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I think the Beatles kind of got overhyped, and it's almost like the cool thing because there's certain artists that really do and have taken from them. I'm not saying that they're bad, but I think Elvis by far is way bigger than the Beatles.
Well,
and took the impact of rock and roll and everything else, and from the black culture and brought it more to light than the Beatles did for music.
Well, I mean, the difference, of course, would be this, Scott. Elvis didn't write. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Elvis didn't write, and then he also, I mean, if anyone fucked themselves up, he recorded so much shit. I mean, he's recorded great stuff, but he's also recorded anything that they fucking handed him, and that hurt. You know what I mean?
So you think the fact that he just did it all kind of eclipses the fact of his greatness?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think you could record as many bad songs as him and all the fucking movie soundtracks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All the movie soundtracks kind of wiped the ass of his earlier stuff.
And kind of like what we were talking about, the difference of the legacy. I think that's a big difference is that, we could discuss or debate Beatles albums in a way that I don't feel like you can with Elvis. Elvis is still a cultural touchstone or a reference point, but I don't think as an artist the legacy is the same.
Well, I mean, Elvis also, he did something, and it's because he listened to fucking Colonel Tom, right? But do you know how many of those bands would have loved to work with Elvis? The Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin was dying to work with Elvis.
Really?
Yeah. And he wouldn't even meet with those people. Springsteen jumped the fucking gate at Graceland to go and meet him. Elvis didn't like anybody who came after him except for the worst possible people. You know what I mean? Like Elvis, and I mean, I think you could tell by the suits and the furniture, but he had taste for shit, including music.
Who did he like collaborate with or seem to like that came after him?
I mean, the only people that you could say he collaborated with were like Anne Margaret and people that he did movies with.
Right.
But it was never really Elvis's idea. Like Elvis he didn't like the Beatles. He didn't like Dylan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could have fucking said, Dylan, you and I should do something. I should sing. Why wouldn't he have recorded a bunch of Dylan? But he's recording fucking clam bake and shit like that.
He turned down Golden Years by Bowie. Bowie was like, I want Elvis to sing this song. And he turned that down.
I wanted to bring up Dylan as a possibility, but it still seems like, you can't really, when it comes to the way most people experience Dylan. I feel like Dylan is a person where you're like, okay, what came in the wake after Dylan? Like he created
absolutely.
a genre and a space and a persona that I think people tried to imitate and still do, but it doesn't have the mass appeal level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It certainly works in intellectual circles, but not everywhere, And I mean, I think we could all agree that he really let us down when he plugged in. That was
Boo!
Boo! Yeah, I can hear you. I don't want to hear you.
I like a gentler sound.
Unplug it. By the way, isn't it also funny how this all came from Paul Reiser? He should have stayed with us.
I know.
Unplug it. By the way, isn't it also funny how this all came from Paul Reiser? He should have stayed with us.
I know.
Let's go over to Mark in Vermont. Mark.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Okay.
Hey, how's it going?
I ran banquets at the Waldorf Astoria the year that the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac were both inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was the last year they held it at the Waldorf instead of out in Cleveland.
Right.
And Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles just had like a literally knockdown, drag-out fight over who was going to play last. And in the end, the Eagles won.
Well, the Eagles would fight all that kind of stuff. The Eagles were crazy ambitious.
Crazy ambitious, and Don Henley's a dick.
Well,
I mean, I dealt with him at that hotel and a couple other hotels, and he's an asshole.
Yeah, sometimes it'll happen when you sell that many records, or maybe he came in kind of a dick, but Glenn Fry is also a dick. All you got to do is watch the documentary. Like, one of them was being the dick at all the time, and what happened is they started being a dick to each other, and that was the end of the band.
Band of Dicks is what they should have called the documentary.
All that's left is a band of dicks. Sometimes I think that they're worse than sticks. This band of dicks. I think that the Eagles documentary is so fucking fantastic because you really see what fucking assholes, money-grubbing assholes that they were. At the same time, you can't take away they were great musicians, great singers, and really good songwriters.
Yeah.
You know? Some clunky songs, but... And you could see in that, like, oh, you guys really are better together than you are apart. But I kind of feel like most people are dicks. You know what I mean? Most people...
Yeah. Most successful people are dicks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the truth.
I don't know. I think if you really look at the most successful people in the world, you could go, I'd rather hang out with homeless people. I think I could get along better with homeless people. Harvey Weinstein, that thing that he did an interview over the weekend. I don't know whether it was on a podcast or something.
It was with the Post. He sat down with the New York Post.
And he got to grab the headline, but he really feels... He said something along the lines, he goes, I want people to acknowledge what I've did, not just what I am now. You know what I mean? And my work is being forgotten about, and people forget that move up to the top headline. It says, I deserve a pat on the back when it comes to women. He goes, I gave women great parts that they weren't getting anywhere else. And I did women directors before anybody else was doing it. And all that would be true, but all the rapes kind of get in the way from being able to sit down.
It's a shame how rapes muddle a story, but they do.
Now, long before the rapes came out, I'd talked about Miramax many, many times, and I thought the Miramax films were better than the Weinstein films. But I think Harvey was responsible for the 90s indie movie thing as much as anybody. There's no fucking doubt. And I used to go to movies if it said Miramax on the poster. I lived in the suburbs at the time. I would fucking drive sometimes far to see a Miramax because I knew like they were going to deliver something good. But weirdly, particularly since you haven't even served any time or nothing, you know what I mean? It's hard to go back and bring that up. It's like when Tarantino came in last week. There would have been, any other time in history would have brought Harvey up to him.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? But there was no reason to do it now. You know what I mean? There's no reason.
Yeah.
All we would talk about would be the rape.
Right, exactly. That this is going to take the forefront. And also the story behind the rapes being involved in the work is going to change the perspective because any one that you gave a part to or anyone that got a film who didn't get that because they didn't, you know what I mean, like comply with him. There's no way to unmarry those two things now.
Now, the guy who was my agent when I was with the Ron and Ron show in Florida, going back to Tampa, make sure to go to creepstour.com. It's going to be, what I say is going to be a hell of a night.
I can't wait.
I hope to come out riding two alligators. I don't know.
Do it! Like standing, right?
Yeah, but very slowly because they roll. walk slower than you think. But my agent at the time, he ended up becoming a partner with me on some projects. Ross Reback. When he was a kid, the Weinstein brothers had a thing in Buffalo, New York, because when they were in college, they put together tours that bands could come through the northern part of New York, Syracuse, Rochester. They would book all these things. And Ross worked for him when he was a kid. He said there was a room, and it was the two Weinstein brothers, Ross Reback and Brad Gray. And Brad Gray went on to be Gary Shandling's manager, and then a producer of shows. I think he eventually was the head of a network. So these four guys were together. And the Weinstein brothers, according to Ross, used to just scream at Ross and Brad all fucking day long. He goes, they were a nightmare. Like, there wasn't a time that they weren't screaming at each other.
Yeah.
Or them. And then he said that if you would say to, if Harvey was screaming at Bob Weinstein, and then you said, Bob, Harvey is right. You did say, Harvey would turn around and go, don't you ever fucking talk about my brother again. You know what I mean? Like, they would fucking come at you.
Yeah.
You had to make sure you weren't on anybody's side.
I stand alone on this.
Yeah. But those two guys were trained under that environment. It's the way men used to behave up until, 11 months ago. It was that real David Mamet way of living your life. Like, we're going to fucking do it. It's the way football coaches yell at football teams all the time. So everybody knew that Harvey was a fucking lunatic. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he really made good movies. I mean, Miramax made really, really good movies. Where do you put that now? You don't know where to put that.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's no way to kind of, disassociate the story. And
this came out right after, I think, they're working on a deal to settle all the civil suits.
Yeah,
$25 million.
The issue, too, is that we're very soon in the grand scheme of things of us learning about all these things. So it's not really time to give yourself credit and say, like, you guys aren't even being nice to me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot play the victim when there are so many actual victims that you affected.
Also, somebody else should be saying that, Harvey.
Yeah.
It's always better if somebody else said,
yeah,
you did that, not you. It never sounds good to say I was the one.
I was the best.
I think TMZ also caught him walking around without the walker.
Yeah, but he is, by the way, he's so close to my house in this picture, it's fucking hilarious. And there he is with the walker. The walker thing is weird. There's his hospital room. By the way, they were bragging about, you can see that's Roosevelt Island right there. I mean, that may have been either the hospital it was in or one up. It's a very hospitalized area. But, because there's the bridge.
It might be the same one, just at a different wing, looking at the angle there.
Mine was a little nicer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, Harvey's fucking Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to stop being Harvey just because you would think once you paid out millions of dollars in these fucking, all right, here's money, now shut up about what I did to you things, that you would not keep doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you think that would be life-changing.
Yeah, you'd think the first one might even shake you enough.
Because, this could ruin my entire life. And then, it didn't.
Liz Sets Fire's coming to Tampa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be amazing if she stood up and lit herself on fire that night?
Yeah. You'll know who it is right away.
I'll go, wait a minute, is that Liz? Yeah, it's a very fucking strange thing. This is a very strange thing, Harvey. I don't know what to do with you anymore.
No. I think you're unsavable, Harvey.
But,
I think you need to understand that.
you know, I sent that thing to you. I sent it to my friend Laura Brooks, and you both said the same thing. He's sick.
Yeah, that's that's a sick personality that you so clearly have done wrong, and still you're in a position of being self-interested and self-centered and sociopathic.
Well, the narcissistic sociopath way is the way to success in America. I mean, we're set up. You know what I mean? You got to get yours, son. You got to get paid, motherfucker. You know, we love that.
Yeah.
And then you see, oh, look at all the darkness that goes along with that. I mean, I guarantee you that there's never been a moment of his day that Harvey Weinstein was not working. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he's at the beach, he's probably taking photo. That thing that for some reason we admire until, you know, you see what else that fucking appetite turns into, all-consuming appetite. But I remember when his brother came out and said, my brother is sick. This is after, you know, when the whole thing started to crumble down. And he said, I paid off these women. It's destroyed our family. And then people are going like this. Wait, you paid off women? What? Yeah, I would go down there with a bag of money, give it to the women.
Hold on 1 second.
I'd have them tell them to shut up. Here's some money. Don't you talk about it. And then that was the last time that he spoke up. When they kicked him in the cunt. But, you know, when you look around at some of these things and people that are just literally untouchable, like Harvey or Jeffrey Epstein, and then, you know, the dam breaks. And they're very fucking touchable, and, you know, life becomes unbearable for them. I mean, I can't imagine what fucking Harvey's going. I can't imagine him going, do you see how shitty these movies are being made? Do you know? Yeah. By the way, do you think Harvey's saying, do you know the deals that I could have made with Netflix? There wasn't a fucking Netflix handing out, you know, oh, here's 5 pictures. We don't even want to touch. You know how much he would have loved to have been in partnership with them?
Yeah.
He would have been perfect. It all fucked up.
Too rapey, I guess.
Well, there was another guy that used to be called Rapey McCrablegs, and he has turned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around. They're what, 7-7?
Yeah, 4-game winning streak. Yeah, I think.
Isn't it funny how you could be 7-7 and excited as Tampa is, or 7-7 and as distraught like Philly and Dallas is? Like, they have the same record.
Yeah.
And people in Philly want to dive off of a building, and people in fucking Tampa are like, we're gonna have a fucking Gasparilla parade. We'll dress as pirates. I'm gonna try to tie the Gasparilla parade in when it creeps.
Good. At least just dress up.
By the way, I can't wait. The next gig that we're doing is Detroit. Make sure you get tickets for that. I think it's Mount Airy, right outside Detroit or something. I don't know the whole fucking thing. I'm going to say this. I'm going to get myself one of these slices of Detroit pizza.
It looks so good.
Is it, though?
It looks good.
That's the problem. I'll tell you something.
I like that, like, side cheese situation looked pretty good.
Yeah, well, you always like to go where that place where they have the cheese all inside the crust.
No, that's Pizza Hut, and I don't want that.
I thought it was Domino's.
Oh, maybe you're right. Stuffed crust? I don't know.
I don't know.
Something about that side piece looking all burnt. It
Pizza
just looks
Hut?
really good.
Did you just say Pizza Hut for no reason, Earl? There should never be an occasion where you're less than 100% sure.
Also, so delayed.
Earl, you did do you realize that you did something very terrible today?
Yes, very much so.
Tell me what you did.
I made a mistake with our guest.
Paul Reiser.
Big time guest.
We say, thank you, Paul, for being here. That was great. And it was. And then he heads out the door, and I see Earl pulling him back into the door for a picture.
Made a terrible mistake, and I
Why
apologize.
did you do that?
Because I was just a little over anxious. I just wanted to make sure we documented the time with our guests.
But how many times has that ever happened?
Once we let him go.
There's a point of no return.
Okay, I made a mistake, Chris.
All right, you're Harvey Weinstein right now.
I'm acknowledging that I made a mistake, and I am terribly, terribly
That
sorry.
sounds like Harvey, but we can't forget all the good things that you did. Is that what you're saying, Harvey?
No, I'm just saying I made a mistake.
Yeah, but why would you rape Chris after he just
Don't rape me on that couch in here, Earl.
Rape me to the limit one more time. See how it's just one word that could just ruin everything? Rape me to the limit. Everybody rape me to the limit. I think we shouldn't even bring up rape. I think it's an uncomfortable situation.
Well, that's
Have you ever noticed that rape's never funny? Can't make it funny.
Because it's impossible.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Austin in North Carolina.
Hey, long-time listener. Thank you, guys. I was just wanting to know what you guys think about, like, Harvey Weinstein's movies are the Lord of the Rings trilogy, all the Kill Bills, like all the Quentin Tarantino's movies, and Gangs of New York, and how going from, like, producing that kind of stuff to where he's at now.
No, I can't imagine. I mean, he literally was, if you were in Tribeca and Harvey Weinstein was walking down the street, people would be like, thanks, Harvey. Fucking love, you know what I mean? I remember seeing him outside of a documentary and just walking over and say, thanks for putting this out, dude. This is fucking, I hope more people, pay attention to it. And it wasn't like he was like a nice guy. He was powerful in a fucking city, in LA, where he wasn't a local, and there were people with a lot more money than him. And he was still a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Like he went in there with nothing.
reputation
Yeah.
that he built for like quality is kind of insane when you think about it.
And he worked with Meryl Streep over and over and over. Anybody in the fucking business wanted to work with Harvey Weinstein, especially all the young guys. Like Kevin, Quentin, I think when Ben Affleck was coming up, all those kind of guys, they idolized Harvey.
Yeah. I mean, he had the reputation of somebody with powerful backing and money that could actually make good movies.
I saw this thing with Mr. Blonde, right? He said that he's sitting at a table fucking next to Quentin, Harvey's kid, and Harvey's wife, right? So he looks up, and Harvey's daughter had handed him this little doll that she was playing with, and he was like, "Is this you?" He was playing back with her. Harvey comes in, he's fucking sweating. He looks up and he sees him. He's just sweating, and he looks like he's at a rage, right? Something that he'd either been doing right before or whatever. He comes over, and he fucking takes the doll, just fucking grabs it out of Mr. Blonde's hand, right? And gives the doll back to the kid. And Quentin is like, Harvey, what are you doing? We just got him to agree. He's going to be in Kill Bill with us, and this is going to be great, And he says, "Just fucking." Harvey's just sweating like a fucking madman, and he's looking at Mr. Blonde, and he's looking at fucking Quentin. It looks like he wants to kill them both, and he just turns around, he takes the dog, gives it back to Mr. Blonde, and leaves.
Holy shit! What the hell?
Now, I don't know whether he was coming from some business deal or a rape. Now.
Yeah, who knows? It could be either.
Some woman was able to dive out of a window and get away from him. And the Tribeca Grill that he used to have dinner there all the time, and what he would do was meet with these European actresses, and he would always be in the back booth, and then he would go, my office is right here, let me take you through, and that's where he would make his move. And then he would come back down, normally without them, and eat all the cold food that had been sitting there for like an hour. Nobody was allowed to move that food off the fucking table.
Oh,
while he
it's
was
so
gone.
creepy and bizarre.
All these people at the Tribeca Grill knew it. They were like, "That's Harvey doing his thing. Let's have leave his after rape food for him."
He really works up an appetite.
Dude, what are you doing? Put those breadsticks back. That's his after rape food.
Can I interest you in dessert after your rape?
And then...
Sorry, what'd you say?
Perhaps you need a towel to wipe some of the semen off yourself. And Earl, that's what you did today. How did the pictures come out, by the way? As uncomfortable as it felt?
I don't even want to look at them. That's how bad I feel.
By the way, while you were making him force... he was kind of drumming on my back like, let's go.
Jesus H. Christ.
Do you remember what I said to you as you were pulling him back?
Something like you were not happy.
Do you remember what I said to you?
I don't.
I said never do this to a guest.
Yes.
You just Harvey Weinstein all of our assholes.
Yeah, you just forced a picture upon.
Yeah, forcibly.
I'm terribly sorry.
Photographing us.
Sorry.
In the
Again,
nude.
But when then you were screaming at...
But don't forget all the good things.
All right. I guess we got a break here.
We should.
When we get back, I'm going to tell you a story about the drunkiest drunk Chris Stanley has ever been. And it's all part of the year-end wrap-up that we play every year. So we record it all in one day, and as if you're listening, each day you could hear Chris get drunker and drunker and drunker. If you're a fan of Chris Stanley, and why would you be? You don't want to miss this story.
Dish Network calls their TV installers service technicians. That's their official title, at least. But on the job...
And the new WWE. Use code HOLIDAY. You can also save on a
Dad's hair loss treatment. People all over the country trust Bosley because they use the latest.
Start to look into some of those.
Some of those cool drugs.
I love that song though, because I love how like people that are on the outside of addiction don't realize you really can have a good drug buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like someone to go through that, and someone's always like, "But she's bad for him." You're like, "Yeah, but he's bad for her."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Yes.
It's like Vito was with me. He's always giving me drugs. You know?
Vito.
Yeah. He wants to say what you're doing. You're judging Vito when it's both of us. We're
By the
both
way,
drug
I
buddies.
was just in a conversation about what exactly you're describing. It's two people, both addictive personalities dating now. And, everyone was like, they're bad for each other. And I was like, yeah, but then they're also good for each other.
Right.
Like, what do you think? They're going to date a sober person? I mean, that doesn't work either, does it?
There was this thing that was called, I think it was Successful Drunks, and it was online. It was T.J. Miller, and the girl...
She was in the key. I know what you're talking about.
She is the hot hand. You know what I mean? She got to do a lot of really cool stuff. And they were basically... And it may be called successful alcoholics, but they were like the kind of alcoholics that could still go to the Bahamas and stuff.
Right.
It was called Successful Alcoholics, and that was Lizzie Kaplan.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them gets sober, so the whole thing's ruined. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, one thing in sobriety, it's very hard. Even when, like, somebody is, like, an alcoholic, a lot of times people get mad that the person who got fucking straight is back, like, preaching. And they're like, really? You want to tell me about one day at a time when I've been living with you for 7 fucking, you know what I mean? Cleaning up your fucking mess for 7 years. It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
That part of sobriety. And we're all saying that because the Lemonheads are the band that we picked to be bigger than the Beatles, and they are 10 times bigger.
That was the answer.
Have a much better name. I'm going to get to the Chris Stanley.
Yes.
Legendary stuff. A couple of quick news stories, though. The runner who smacked the reporter's butt as he was running the marathon, he's been arrested for sexual battery. Now, do we consider a smack on the butt?
I mean, look, that's assault, brother. I agree. But sexual battery, I thought, had to do with more violent act than that.
Well, even the assault, I mean, you can smack somebody on the butt, and it's a friendly thing. It's a hard call. But I will tell you this. TV stations, stop sending your reporters out. Someone's going to yell at them or
Yeah.
try to kiss them or whatever it is.
Someone's gonna drop an F-bomb.
Somebody's gonna say that right in the pussy thing or
Right.
whatever that guy was yelling.
Somebody's gonna
fuck her
make-
in the pussy.
Look, everybody's bothering her.
Yeah.
And then this guy, and he looks like a middle-aged man and she's a young girl. I mean, that's the bad
Right.
thing.
Very exciting. People.
I'm gonna keep going professional, but all right. So sexual
should've
sexual
chased him.
battery. Sexual battery is what that was called.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Amazon TV commercial about the? I think it's Echo is the name of it or something. Where I guess he's talking to Alexa, but it comes off very Peloton to me.
It's the next Peloton.
To me, it is, but nobody's complaining about it. So
let's see.
here's what I'm going to say. This is a guy on his way to work, and for some reason, he's adjusting all the house things for his wife.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at this.
A month after the lights went out. Alexa, pause my podcast. Alexa, set the temperature at home to 71 degrees. And turn on the lights.
Alexa, call Mike. Thanks, hon. Have fun at work.
Now, by the way, we're supposed to believe he's a cardiologist because of where he's parking, but I don't know. He could be doing anything there. But here's the weird thing. He's deciding the temperature, the lighting,
Interesting,
and the
yeah.
music. And couldn't she? She's got an Alexa. She could do it for
Yeah.
herself.
Doesn't seem just like a safety thing. It's like
Right.
some of the other stuff. It's
Control
like-
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Secretary where he's telling her
Yes.
exactly
Oh,
what
yeah.
to eat?
Like you have 4 Ps or something.
And then
she's gonna-
all the ice cream you want.
Yeah, that
I
guy's
don't know. I just thought, why isn't this one getting picked on? You can see he's married to her.
Yeah.
But she can't make a fucking move.
No.
Even decides what temperature.
Is she even allowed to have access to Alexa?
No.
I mean,
No.
could she have done it herself? She's not
Were
allowed.
you fucking talking to Alexa when I was being a cardiologist today?
No.
I'm fucking saving lives. I could take a life, bitch.
Alexa, tell me, has she been talking to you? Don't fucking lie to me, Alexa.
You know I can't answer that, Dave.
Joe Burrow is the king of the Heisman. He's the greatest football player who's ever lived. I think he's got more votes or a higher percentage of votes
Yeah.
than anybody ever before. And he's only played really for 1 year. He was back up at Ohio all this time. I'm going to ask my football experts, Lockdown and Locktown,
Yes.
to weigh in. Is this guy going to be a successful pro, and where is he going to play?
He will not be successful. He will go to the Bengals. That's what I
That
know.
would be the first round pick, right?
Yes, first round pick. Yeah.
So they're going to, and why won't he be successful?
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have that.
He doesn't have the it factor.
He doesn't have the it factor exactly.
Mhm.
And then he's going to go to the Bengals, which is going to compound on the fact that it's going to fuck up his career.
Would you say that he has that certain something?
That's certain something he does not.
Veets.
He's going to crush it. He's going to go to Miami, and it's going to be the resurgence of Miami football.
Now, this goes to show you how big this thing is. So he gets up and he goes, I want to, thank my family. And he goes, and I want to thank the people of, I think it's southeastern Ohio where I grew up, because it's a impoverished place. And some kids go to school hungry. There's not enough food there. And I mean, he was crying. He was stopping. He was like my eulogy. They give people just called up and gave that thing $175,000.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I don't even think he asked them to give money or anything like
No,
that.
they
just heard. And you're just like, man, people fucking pay attention to football.
Yeah, they really do.
And this kid looks so much like Jim Brewer. Like if Jim Brewer had a very tall son. I think it when I watch every game. I really like him, Chris. I don't know what you don't see in him. I think, I know some people are talking about arm strength and all that, but what he's done, that's unbelievable, right?
Yeah, 100. That's crazy.
That's really cool.
They picked out the worst movie of the world, and this movie stars John Travolta, and I told you he's been on a loose streak. But it also is directed by Fred Durst.
Yeah, there's something right there that should tell anyone
Yeah.
that it was going to make this list.
That was The Fanatic. That was one where he was a fan.
I never even heard of it.
This was pretty recent.
Did it get a theater release?
I think it was like straight to streaming. I'm not sure what streaming.
Is it on streaming right now?
I think it's on streaming right now. Yeah.
I'll watch it. I watched bad John Travolta.
I mean,
movies.
Travolta's fucking makeup looks pretty awesome.
Hey, Paul in D.C.
The Dulcet Benningtons. How are you today?
Hey, that's a good one. I like that.
Well, thank you, my friend. Hey, I saw the Alexa commercial a little different, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm probably around your age. And I saw it as him trying to be sweet to his wife for when she got home to make things nice for her.
Well, you know, this is funny. When I first watched it, I thought she was home at the time.
That was my assumption until she put the keys down.
Yeah, I think they had her put the keys down, like she didn't come across that way. And I get it, but also, you know, wouldn't it have been better if, like, here's how I think it might work nicer. If maybe she was doing that for him, like, oh, I know he forgets to do things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, for some
Yeah.
reason, because we don't have the controlling thing on that side as much.
Right. There's less of the stereotype. of it.
I'm 100% sure it was meant from Paul's point of view.
Yes.
He's being sweet.
Yeah, I mean, they would never make a commercial where they were trying to say, this is a secretary situation.
But
we want this to be as creepy as possible.
I can tell you from experience, and it is always a little embarrassing where, you know, when your chick is like, I'm going away this weekend. Now I made a thing of lasagna and it's in there.
It's always lasagna.
Yeah.
You ever notice that?
You know why? It's easy to unfreeze. It's easy to heat up. And it's fucking delicious. But it is. They're never going to say, I left some spaghetti or chicken.
There's a pot roast in there.
Oh, no. That's too hard. But it does have that thing of, do you really think I can't take care of myself? And they're like, yeah, I really do think that.
You know, there was over the weekend there was like another commercial that was in controversy where I think it was like a lesbian couple.
Yeah, Hallmark.
This was the Hallmark thing.
Yeah, and do you know?
All right, well, let's tell it all the way through.
Yeah.
So Hallmark had run a commercial, and there were people kissing in the commercial. It was supposed to be about a wedding. Heteros kiss, but then two girls kiss, and quite frankly, is this the one?
This is the one. This is yeah. It's from Zola.com.
It's not that sexy of a kiss, if we're going to be honest.
No, it's just like a celebratory one.
I know the blonde. She was a friend of mine in college, and you remember she acted in a piece that I did my senior year. She played like the young girl. Remember, there was like a guy, and there was a gunner, and there was a young girl. She played the young girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
So I was like seeing this big thing like make news, like there was this controversy over it, and I was like, hey, I know the lady in controversy. But yes, it's a very simple kiss. But the problem was people complained, then they pulled it, and then they had to be like, sorry for pulling it.
Well, yeah, you got to tell it all the way through. So number one, the Million Moms complained.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Million Moms is the biggest bullshit thing. There's not a million of them.
They just named themselves that.
They just named themselves the Millions Moms. So Hallmark, apparently somebody at the corporation is not, you know, they don't know who the Million Moms are. They get the complaint. They're like, well, we're sorry. We're not trying to be political or controversial. We'll pull that ad. Then their next fucking complaint comes in from GLAAD and people like that. So they have to say, look, I'm sorry. We're not trying to offend you. We'll put the ad back on. This is exact the same thing that's happened with the fucking chicken sandwich place, right? First they were like, oh, you know, we'll give to your anti-gay things. And then when they're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know everybody was so pro-gay. All we want to do is sell chicken sandwiches. So, yeah, we'll stop doing that. And then the other side is mad at them. You're always going to have half the country mad at you now.
Right.
And the corporations, they don't give a fuck about anybody. Like, it would be something if they said, look, I understand that you're offended by this, but we really think that people have the right to be gay. But they don't care either way.
Right.
Now, the other thing about Hallmark is they're like the romance thing, but they don't see sex as being part of romance at all. I'm amazed how many people watch these Christmas movies. I do it myself sometimes. I'll just put one on and sit there. At first, I feel like I'm making fun of it. And then I'm like, I'll tell you right now, I think I could end up living in Angel Falls. You know what I mean? I like a small town. I'd like to be in a place where you know everybody and you get together. And I think I could be like a carpenter who gets a hot girl.
You know what? The fact that you said carpenter is 100% because it's always like a guy has to be like rugged and have like a craft, but there has to be some creativity in it too. You know what I mean? Like you want him to be physical, but like gentle enough to be creative about what that skill is.
Sometimes he's like a rugged guy who's also a photographer for a national fucking,
Oh, sure.
nature thing.
Right.
And they've all been hurt by a woman in their past, so they haven't dated in a while.
Sometimes they're widows.
Oh,
and
that's
really
Widow's
nice.
a good, best case scenario.
Now, if you watch this, and it's almost like a reverse porn, because in these things, the men tend to be better looking than the women. You know what I mean? Like it's the first time you'll see like a little bit of a chubby woman or an older woman, and just a really good looking, harmless guy, like not ruggedly handsome,
Right.
not like you're a Christmas daddy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to
No.
get a Chris Christopherson in
For
there.
sure.
But you're going to get somebody that your mom would want you to date. You know what I mean?
A pretty man.
Yeah, pretty, but
But
with
not
a good,
too pretty.
like a good jawline.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. That's what happened in Falling in Love, the Netflix rom-com, where a woman had to go to New Zealand to get an in. And then she met the local handyman around town. And
You know, I saw the trailer for that, and I was like, I need to see this movie. I haven't watched it yet, but it's exactly that.
I think it's a Christmas miracle.
And I like when they don't really get along at first. They just butt heads, you know.
Well,
Like,
they-
I do things this way.
Fucking misunderstanding is what it is. They don't even see how much they're in love.
I watched half of one. It's new on Netflix. And it's called Christmas Night.
Then what happened? Then you passed out?
I did fall asleep, but I'm going to pick it back up.
I can't believe that Netflix is stealing this demo.
They have
from
it.
them.
They have it. It's fucking ridiculous.
Now, I think Lifetime goes in a different, they do like the same kind of stuff, but it's darker. Like the woman
Someone
falls in
died,
love with
yeah.
someone who killed a woman before.
Yeah, it's like the rom-com and like true crime in one.
Right.
That's yeah.
So she's like
Everything ladies love.
The sister is like, you talk about your boyfriend Vito a lot, but what do we really know about him? I'm gonna look him up on the internets.
Don't. You're going to get killed by him now.
Yeah, the other thing is I love the like just married to her work lady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's really important.
here's-
Like I'm gonna take some time, but like as soon as I get through all this stuff, my work comes first.
And then I've been offered a new job in Boston. They get offered Boston and San Francisco quite a bit.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like anyone's moving to Phoenix. And I'm kind of like, is that an insult? Like, ooh, Boston, when you could be living here in Angel Falls?
It's much more beautiful. It's simpler here.
Why is everybody always so negative that this woman has a job that she cares about? And
They fucking hate for a woman to be dedicated to a job.
just let her be a lawyer and focus on her caseload.
Well, then I'll have to sell the candy store if you're leaving. We've supplied candy to the people of Angel Falls for the last 75 years.
Maybe there's help that you can do here at Angel Falls. You can use your skill that
Well-
you had in the big city.
One of the things we like you to do is put together the Christmas pageant. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. Yeah, I know. This whole fucking town is just freaking out for Christmas.
What goes on here when it's not Christmas?
This cookie's good. You're going to get some of my specially baked cookies. I mean, specially baked, there's weed in them? No, nothing.
They're just so good.
Yeah. All we ever do is drink a really tiny bit of wine that we seem to hold up more than guzzle. I'd actually have to say this. You want to put a little wine in this fucking hole? All right. We said we would talk about this, and now we shall. Last Saturday, we came in to work on our day off because we put together the year end every single year so that we're on this Christmas vacation. You get new programming every day. And then we put it together for one big thing that we do with the iBang every year, where you can vote on Comedian of the Year, Comedy Movie of the Year. It's been a lot of fun. We've been doing it for a lot of years. I think it was last year, or maybe even a couple years before that, we went back and did it again last year. We came up with the idea, if Chris is drinking, he will be a little more drunk every day on the show. We did it this year. He started very quiet. What would have been the Monday and Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't even a progressively getting drunk.
Yeah, I mean, we should mention this wasn't like us going, now do a shot because you did this. It was just he was enjoying and going kind of at his own pace.
And his own pace was picking up. And he was just drinking a fifth of whiskey out of the bottle. There came a point, and anybody who's known Chris Stanley or has heard him do this on the air knows there always comes a point where he's just fucking blotto. The eyes are glowing, and he's fucked up. And he starts in, and at a certain point, I looked over and I said, Chris, I think you've had enough. He drank, I'm going to guess, 3/5 of a fifth of whiskey.
Yeah, quite quickly, actually.
Yeah, so it was...
Tastes good.
So I just reach over, I take the bottle away. My idea was, see if it was okay for a while, have him drink some water. And if so, he could come back into the game. You know what I mean? I was going to bring him back in once we ran all the preliminaries on him and made sure.
I was going in the tent for a little while.
And the next thing I know, I mean, some time went on where you didn't complain about that at all, and you were fine for about 15 or 20 minutes. But then the next thing, and it seems like, and I've seen this happen with drinking contests, that people stop drinking, but they continue to get drunker.
Right, it's going into
through
blood
the bloodstream.
now.
Yeah.
You're drinking quite quickly, so it's not hitting you all at the same time.
Hitting the blood real hard at this point.
But it seems odd that someone hasn't drank for 15 minutes and they're getting drunker.
Yeah.
Just sloshing around in my stomach.
Just seeping in.
Yeah.
Well, then Chris starts, as he's apt to do, arguing with Vito and Earl. Vito, do you remember what he was mad at you for? And send Earl in here, too. Have him prance in like he's riding a pony.
Prance, Earl.
Oh, he's so fast.
He is
That's
actually
more-
very fast.
That really wasn't much of a
He
prance.
he got mad at me for just at one point telling him he was being too loud.
I can see that. I'd get mad at that.
Yeah.
And pressing the wrong stuff. But he just
A lot
anything
of production.
anytime you would make a comment to him, he would immediately just bite back at you.
Yeah.
He was getting real snippy
Yeah.
at this point.
And Earl, do you remember what he was mad at you about?
Well, I had the bottle.
Well, first of all, let's all be honest here. I took the bottle and I hid it over here in a place that he would never see, right? For some reason, Earl got up, went behind there and grabbed that bottle and walked back to hold it.
Yes.
Now it's in the drunk's vision line.
I know.
it's a
That
bad
moment
move.
was like poking Big Bear. It
Yeah.
was like he was fine. He was kind of snoring and grumbling over there.
Yeah.
But once he got his eyes on the fact that he was so far in distance from the bottle he
Yeah.
wanted.
And I was thirsty.
That's when things got
Started
intense.
and he was very mad at you, Earl.
He's more than mad at me.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to tell us why you took the bottle from its very successful hiding place? Because he wasn't going to go looking. He wasn't up to that.
No.
You know what I mean?
I just wanted
We
here.
could have put it behind any screen and we'd have been safe. But why did you pull it back out?
The game plan was to take it completely out of the studio, but he saw me take the bottle.
Because you sat down again. You took it from over there and sat down. And I noticed this was literally was swinging the bottle back and forth.
He was taunting him a little.
Yeah,
I
that's-
mean, you
that's
didn't
what it
mean
felt
to,
like.
but that's what happened.
So
that's what Big Bear saw.
He's getting more and more angry. Now, Gail, you started to say a couple things to Chris. And do you remember what you said?
Well, I think I was probably commenting on
Yeah.
his drunkenness as everyone else was.
Yeah.
Commenting on his volume and a couple
Okay.
things. And then at this point, we were in a conversation, I believe, about 2019 and late night TV shows.
Right. This was the viral moment thing.
This was just like a late night hosts we
Right.
were discussing, and
Okay.
our each of us having opinions on late night hosts that we liked.
Now, then Chris wanted to interrupt Gail. Like he felt like Gail was talking over him. So he started to go, Gail! And then he goes, chill out, Gail. Now, I have known Chris for 12 years. He's never used the term chill out.
No, never. I also was saying I chose a late night host as my favorite that he had a very strong opinion is not a good late night.
Oh yeah, you're not a John Oliver fan.
Yeah.
No.
I said so then he started to be like bullshit, like as though I lied that I was lying. And then he proceeds to go into this thing like he thinks he's so smart.
Right.
And then he just keeps on, why would you pick John Oliver? He's getting very surly about it, like more than anyone should. And then I made the comment that you were acting like a jealous boyfriend. Yeah. And that really got old Big Bear angry.
And you really started to act like you were fighting with your girlfriend. And you would say over and over again every time she tried to speak, Gail, chill out, Gail.
And I should mention, my volume was the same as it is now.
Yeah.
I wasn't speaking passionately. I was just regular talking.
Why didn't you chill out, though?
There was nothing unchill about me, and yet you were screaming, chill out, Gail, over and over. Maybe a good 50 times over the course of a couple minutes.
Now, the beauty of it, and that became any time, but the loop was on, like you said it exactly the same way. And I have heard, like, when people go through a stroke that they might get caught in a loop like that.
Yeah.
You were definitely in a stroke-like loop.
That's scary.
Chill out, Gail was your mantra.
Chill out, Gail. I was laughing because it was so strange.
It was so
out of character for you, and yet you were completely consistent.
I was laughing so hard, and I couldn't stop trying to get under his skin because, it was so funny.
Right.
But I couldn't believe how many times he was saying it. And it was really, there was no reason to be yelling it.
No.
There was
I don't know. Maybe your John Oliver thing's bullshit. I don't know.
At one point, he was using air quotes and saying John Oliver likes to tell jokes about the news, which is just what he does.
Or whatever. He would say that.
Whatever.
Yeah, then he would.
And then I would go, well, don't you think? And you would be like, chill out, Gail.
Yeah, we go, Gail, chill out, Gail. I will tell you, if you're any fan of Chris Stanley's at all, and there's no reason for you to be, it was the funniest fucking thing. I had to go over and spit coffee into the trash can. I'm not a man who loses. I'm not like a big laugher who loses it. And I was seeing the white light. I was having to take a knee. It was the funniest fucking moments. Now, you could be saying to yourself, why not let us listen to this?
Yes. Oftentimes you don't want to show, you know?
I got home that night. A call came in from Vito. He had fucked up the CD recording and it's gone. And I'm like, wait, is the break with? And he's like, Ron, everything's gone. I'm like, but what about? He goes, yeah, Ron, it's gone. I go, but the part where he goes, I understand what you're saying. It's gone. It was like getting a call that your friend had died in a car accident.
It was so...
And that friend's name was hilarity.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we had such a fun, silly time. But the amount that we had already talked about chill out, Gail, we're like, we're going to be saying that forever.
Oh, like right away, I got to get that fucking drop. And every time Gail's talking, I'm going to hit chill out, Gail. And then we're going to laugh, remembering how crazy that was. You had even said you wanted to do a chill out, Gail.
I thought it would be a great T-shirt, chill out, Gail. It was
Hilarious.
So fucking funny. And, when I spoke to Vito, I had a very similar conversation as you. But I think I was like, you're joking. This is a joke. And he's like, no, Gail, this isn't a joke. And I was like, you're joking. But I didn't realize he was in the office and drunk Chris was still in the office. And all of a sudden I just hear this in the background. We would never joke about something like that, Gail. And I'm just like, all right, I'm just dealing with Vito right now, buddy. We would never joke about that.
I had the same kind of thing happen because, Vito called me and told me about it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And, I'm like, well, it is what it is or whatever. And I go, how's Chris? And wanting to know that he wasn't choking on his own puke.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I just hear Chris yell, I'm not happy, Ron. Not happy with the situation. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean that, Chris. I meant.
How is your health?
Now, so we came in on a day off. We worked like 7.5 hours. Look, Gail, by the way, this is what I was traveling home in that night. And I'd already had a cold.
You had a terrible cold.
Now, keep watching. That's the streets of New York City just flooded.
Pouring rain.
Yeah.
Oh,
and you
my
see when
God.
I turn it back towards myself.
That's horrifying. It was such a long day.
Yeah.
As funny as it was, I honestly think it took so much out of us because we were laughing so hard. You know how, like, sometimes, my ribs were hurting from laughing so hard. I felt sick. And, I felt like if someone had just beat me with a baseball bat because it was that kind of day. And then to find out that news was other level.
Yeah. It was certainly an accident, but we just want the listeners to know that Chris might have hit a peak, and only we will be the only ones who will know it.
And the weird thing I thought about is that there was some moments that happened even within the show that we were like, Chris is within a blackout right now.
Right.
Like, we knew, like, Chris, you're not going to remember this because he didn't remember something that just happened, like, 30 seconds before. And then I was like, this whole show exists in a blackout. Like, we're part of that blackout. It just doesn't exist.
It's like a Black Mirror.
It really is.
Now we're going to record again this weekend, but there's no sense in you drinking again because I know what you'll do. You'll attempt to get back to that point, and it'll be forced.
No, we can't repeat what happened.
Let me just have a couple, see what happens.
No, absolutely
It just will never be as good.
And, like,
you could
think
do
about
something
this-
hilarious, and we're like, no.
It's not chill out, Gail.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same.
He'll be like, take a pill, Gail.
Calm yourself, Gail.
God, it was
Do you
so
ever
funny.
say chill out to anybody?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't know why
think
I
he
would
does.
key
And the
in on
funny
that
thing
fucking
is,
phrase.
of course, he was yelling at Vito and Earl, but it was just so funny the way you were laying into me. It was so hilarious. It's like we can't get there again. You'll never allow yourself.
And you know it's why something like that is what made his other girlfriend break up with him.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because
she probably liked John Oliver like I did.
She was a John.
because you were acting like Gail was your girlfriend.
Yeah,
who-
you were like jealous of my you're like, you think he's so smart?
He was Bradley Cooper in Wedding Crashers.
I just think that you want to marry Gail, and that's what's keeping you from getting married and having a kid with your girlfriend.
I don't want to marry or have a child with anyone.
That's why we had to elope, because I was afraid that Chris would run in
really?
and break up whatever wedding I would have had. So I had to make it secret.
Like the fucking Graduate. He would have showed up pounding on the glass. Chill out, Gail! Don't do it! Chill out, Gail!
Just pressing his body against the glass. Chill out, Gail.
Vito, there's not some kind of forensic fucking guy that could pull that out?
No, it's gone forever.
How?
It was a brand new disc. I mean, there's no excuse for what happened, but I don't know.
And no backup scenario was really the heartbreak of it.
We can never have a backup.
It was a specific situation where there couldn't be another backup.
I don't think so. It was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I've never laughed like that before.
I couldn't when we started laughing and I looked over and you had your hand like this and you were running, and then he had to do a spit take into the trash
I was
can.
stopping coffee from going all over here, but literally couldn't even use my mouth to stop it because I was laughing. I had to put my hand over my mouth and then just fucking hang over the trash can laughing and feeling like, you ever have that laugh that you're like, I'm not coming back from this laugh?
Oh yeah, I definitely went there, and I was like, my ribs hurt. I just felt sick.
And then, there was something too, like a little frightening. Like, is his brain okay that he's saying this the same?
Yeah.
I mean, you said
it the
chill
same
out,
way.
Gail, 50 times.
Yeah.
And then
but
he
said
would
it
start
exactly
it with
the
going,
same.
like, Gail, chill out, Gail. Like,
Yeah,
the
like you were
same
pointing your
way.
finger just a little bit, but not all the way. Like you were trying to fucking tell your girlfriend to stop overacting, but she wasn't in the first place. But you really had gone to a very strange place. And I know what happened. You saw that bottle come back again.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of set me off, and not having that access to it.
Yeah.
And Earl being the one holding it and keeping
Yeah.
it for me, the thing I wanted, made me go
And
a
I
little
was
crazy.
the victim of that. You put your anger towards me.
Collateral damage, Gail.
It's true. But I think, honestly, is once he set his eyes on that bottle.
Now, Vito, a lot of people are calling for you to be fired. If you remember Vito was very surprised how relaxed I was. Well, good. We'll just redo it. We'll make it even better.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. And he was like, I don't know. Did it take courage for you to call me and tell me that?
It was terrifying to call and tell you guys that, like, the work we just did that day was lost forever.
Maybe the fact that my cold had went into double pneumonia probably had me a little, seeing life from a different point of view. Of, cherish each moment. Cherish each breath because it could be gone. But, I mean, it is a technical. What are you going to do about technical things?
Yeah.
You can't do shit. We'll just go in and do a worse show than we would have done before. But I did feel like I have to share with people that there's some alternate universe that you would have the funniest Christmas ever listening to this stuff.
I know.
Chris, you
Yes, Ron.
try to understand this. Why is somebody who's blotto drunk thinking they need more to drink? Like you couldn't possibly get drunker than that. You know what I mean? Drunker than what you were doesn't exist.
As I was leaving, he was still bargaining and bartering, trying to get that bottle back as I was leaving.
Yeah. Yeah,
He
I know.
never gave up.
He was drinking a little bit too after we left. Because when I was talking with Vito, he said, when I goes, he's okay then? And then Chris yells, yes, I stopped drinking a half an hour ago. And I'm like, that's 2.5 hours after I wanted him to stop drinking.
Yeah. Had a couple extra ones.
One night I was drinking whiskey when I was in high school. And I go to this fucking party. And I was just blackout fucking drunk. And I made all the girls line up and then I kissed them one at a time. No memory of any of this. And then I went home far too early to be that drunk. You know what I mean? Like I probably went to my house at 10 o'clock at night. This is how drunk I was. Instead of staying out, I thought I'm really late and I'm tired. I went home like at 10. My whole family saw me this drunk.
Fuck.
So, and then I get up Monday and I go to school and everyone's like, oh, dude, what you did, And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Because I went home early? Is that your fucking thing? No memory of lining the girls up like this. Beautiful girls, too. I mean, And they all thought it was hilarious and sweet and fun. But that's like very first lines where I'm like, this could go somewhere bad someday. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember any of this.
Isn't that weird? Is that the drinking, you're getting to this place where you're like, I'm going to have so much fun when I get to this point. And then you tip the scale and then you forget what happened. It's really weird.
Here's the other sad thing. Wouldn't it be great if here at my age, I can remember a night of lining up all the cheerleaders, kissing them one at a time, and have them thinking it was fun.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All gone. I don't get it. But I bet the 7 of them sit back every night going, that was the greatest night of my life.
The best kiss.
Every single one of them realized she was with a chimp. Isn't that weird, though? And that's where Chris lives his whole life, in Blackout Land.
Yeah, that was definitely a fucking the beginning. I remember, middle's gone.
People are who's saving things on a CD and not a flash drive. What fucking year is this?
I said the same thing, but that's just the way they do things here.
I mean, the CD isn't my choice. That's just the way the studio's set up.
It's just the way it is.
Baby.
Some things will never change. Tonight in Blackout Land. One of my ears needs to be popped. This cold's hung around a while, right?
Maybe you should go to the ear draining doctor like Chris did.
He's right by here. He's a block over.
Yeah.
Just drain the ears out.
I'm not a hypochondriac like Chris is.
Don't go to Chris's doctors. You get bills a few months later that say they're $600 and your insurance doesn't cover it.
That guy's
Chris's doctor's name is Frankenstein. Has there ever been another fucking monster that has been fucking name like Frankenstein?
I know, that's
He's
weird.
not Frankenstein. He's Frankenstein's monster.
And at this point, I kind of feel like he's Frankenstein. You know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
we're taking it too far now.
Yeah, you
where
call a
it's just
movie Frankenstein, you're fucking stuck with it.
Yeah. And then I always hate, like, if you're like, oh, like, he's walking around like a Frankenstein. They're like, it's actually a Frankenstein monster. It's like, yeah, I don't have time for that. But I think we all know it's
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster, but we're calling him Frank.
Here's what I say when somebody tries to correct me. Shut up, nerd. We all fucking know, nerd. You still haven't looked at that picture yet, Earl? To see if it's even any good?
I could do it now.
I know you could do it now. It's the fact that you have to be told that really weirds me out.
Yeah.
You nervous about it?
Yeah.
Feel like it's terrible?
Does everyone have a look on their face like this is an awkward moment?
Pass it over since you won't have a
You
fucking...
just say
Just have an
whatever is on your
opinion.
mind.
It's pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
He looks angry as hell, though. We're fine. He looks like he wants to attack. Oh, boy. Look at that grimace that he has towards you.
Oh, yeah.
Gail and I are
It's
looking
aggressive.
like we just saw a rape take place.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
We're like, ugh, very sorry. It's an awkward smile.
It's not me you owe the apology to. It's to the entire cast of Mad About You. I'm mad about you. Remember the Go-Go song?
Mm-hmm. Love.
I thought you hated the Go-Go's.
I don't know where that rumor got started. I'm guessing Chris.
I think it started. Chris was real drunk. This is up on the iBang. This cracked me up. The hunky Irish farmer calendar. Now, when you see
interested
these
in
guys, not one of them would make an American calendar. Look at these fucking doughy,
Oh my God.
doughy dad bods of
This
Ireland.
is a dad bod situation here. Baby goat is pretty cute. I'll give you that.
Get the other pictures.
Yeah, I'd like to see more. That is so funny. There's a softness about these the
Fleshiness.
torso. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this guy in the pumpkin
Yeah, he's
patch.
pretty cool.
Who, Tom Green? Yeah, I guess so. I guess he's the coolest. That guy looks like he's taking a shit in a basket. What does he consider himself, a fish farmer?
Why
Is
they?
that? Oh, go ahead.
Why do they all wear hats? And this kid doesn't wear one, but the rest of them are just wearing hats.
Yeah, they wear those little cheese cutters.
Yeah, it's like the look.
You need a hat in Ireland, Chris. I mean, I don't ever see you with the Old West. Why are they all wearing fucking hats wherever they go?
Keep out of the sun. It's an outdoor farming, outdoor activity.
So this woman, and she's only 24 years old, but I guess she's a homeowner. She put her Christmas lights on the roof like a cock and balls. And her neighbors are annoyed. And she's like, well, it's my house. You know, I'd like to get a nice big fat dick up there. Celebrate the season. This is the reason for the season.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever get so mad and think that your neighbors should change something?
You know, I don't feel like I'm that person. You know what I mean?
No, I don't want to be the guy. I just don't. I mean, you could do a murder over in your place.
It's your place.
Hey, Chip in New York.
Yeah, Earl should have called Ronnie out on that song title because it was actually Belinda Carlisle in her solo career, not the Go-Go's, that sang Mad About You.
Where were you at on that, Earl? Guess what? Now we owe Chip a pretty good prize.
Yeah, Chip.
Chip.
Why are you guys cheering for Chip? You could have corrected me too.
Well, I didn't know the answer. I guess it was right. I do hate the Go-Go's. Chris
Yeah.
was right.
You only like Belinda Carlisle. You hate the rest of the Go-Go's.
Mm-hmm.
Earl, how'd you miss this? You're supposed to be Mr. Music.
It was so blurred between Go-Go's and solo career. It
Not for
sounds
me.
the same, and they still perform the song as a band.
I guess all women are the same, right?
That's what he thinks.
All you want is that fucking snatch.
He can't get enough of it. Pussy's on his mind
The
constantly.
kind of guy who would control the Alexa and not let his wife pick the temperature.
All right, Echo Orange says, I'm stunned they didn't run some sort of backup recording just in case anything goes wrong. I hope they learn from that now on. Well, we were all promised that this would never happen again the last time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what was the difference?
I can't tell you. There was just there.
But we need a backup, right?
We need a backup, but there was it was a really specific situation that concerns like the amount of recording devices and where they are.
It's not making any sense, is he?
No, not a lot.
It seems like every situation should be taken care of. Or as Bachman Turner Overdrive called it, taking care of business. Yeah. And if we couldn't have done it under that ways, then we should be warned about it.
Yeah.
Then we could have went back and checked as we went along all day.
Yeah.
You're agreeing, Earl? I see
Yes.
you nod your head.
Yes, that was.
I've never seen you agree with me before, but you're finally on my side.
No, that was.
Earl, did you not have an opportunity to do a backup?
I did not have an opportunity
Really?
to back up.
Because I actually remember there was a moment where you were the last person by a backup area and you didn't press anything.
I didn't have access to
You
said
did.
backup area.
You did.
Said backup. It's just backup.
Earl, you did.
So you've been holding that? You're like, I'm going to take the heat?
Yeah, so hearing him say that just kind of fucking bothered me.
What do you mean bother you? We didn't have access to a backup to the entire recording.
It's fine.
It isn't fine. I say that you're upset.
Because there was a moment where Earl could have made a backup and he didn't because he doesn't think on his feet and he has to be told to do everything. So if he's going to fucking put the blame on me right now.
I didn't say anything. I didn't put the blame on me. I'm agreeing with you. You didn't have access to the backup area. I didn't throw you under the bus.
You want to apologize to him, Vito, for misdiagnosing?
For seconds ago saying that there should have been a backup.
There should have been a backup.
But I also understood we didn't have access to it. I'm agreeing with you. And you're picking a fight with me.
So neither one of you had access, or Earl had it?
Neither one of us had access. There was no access to anything.
What's the truth, Vito?
I should have made a backup. It should have been me. I should have made sure that
This way, Earl didn't even have the opportunity to do a backup.
No, he didn't have a single chance. Nobody did.
You feel good about that, Earl?
I don't feel good.
But you agree?
No, I'm agreeing with Vito that we did not have access to a backup. That's what I'm saying.
And yet he is saying you did have access.
I don't know why he's picking a fight with me, but I'm agreeing with the man.
Yeah. Because I guess he's disappointed that if you would have hit that, we would have had this.
I'm not sure if I don't know.
Chris, does it feel great that you were blotto drunk and could have done nothing about it?
Yes and no, Ron. Yes and no.
Do you think Earl should have been able to hit that?
Yes, Earl should have been able to hit that because it's very simple to just hit the record button on a computer.
Yeah, if you have access to it.
Did he have access?
He would have had access to it. If I know I was drunk during that time, but thinking back on that time sober, there would have been a point to get, I believe, my true drunkenness, my most drunkest moments to get that.
So what
back
you're
up.
saying is we would have lost maybe like the beginning or like the first.
Nobody would have cared if we just would have had that one. That one thing was the only true magic. The rest of it for me was forgettable. Like I even said to Vito, I go, Vito, I think we could do better with the whole beginning of that show.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get upset. And I go, as long as, nobody had the opportunity to hit the backup when they were supposed to.
No one had access to it.
I said, if anyone had access and didn't take it.
I remember you saying that on the phone.
Oh, does it bother you that you said you can't think on your feet?
You know what? I don't even know what to say anymore about it because I'm trying, but everything is my fault.
I didn't say it was all your fault. I just said.
No, I'm.
Earl, don't do this woe is me thing right now.
I'm not doing this woe is me thing. You're coming after me. I'm not going to even acknowledge.
Are you saying come at me, bro?
You saying catch me outside? How about that?
How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? Don't you guys miss those days?
I love
Well, now that Cash Me Outside boy is here. It's 20. Did you feel like you got fucking straightened out though, Vito? Now you understand?
No,
it couldn't have been done.
I mean, if we look at the logistics of the situation, there was only one way for Earl to leave his position, which would mean that there was access. You're smiling.
No, I'm not saying nothing now.
Why? Because
But by the way, you know how you say everybody blames you for everything? I spend most of my time blaming Chris.
Yeah, that's true. 90% of the time,
Yeah,
Chris gets
because
the
I
blame.
feel like he overreaches. You know what I mean? And
He does
doesn't-
the old reach around.
Yeah,
Is what he does.
Here's what Chris is a center fielder who will run into left and right,
Crashing into them.
Yeah, trying to take the catch right out of their glove. And then I'm like, Chris, let them catch the ball. But here you are, a chance that you had a chance to make a catch, and you're saying nobody could have made that catch. And Vito said it was hit right at you, Earl.
Okay, I didn't have a chance to make a catch, and I didn't make the catch.
So you do see it that way now.
I guess I do.
I mean,
I don't think you do, Earl.
No, I mean, but
Earl, you have every right to express yourself.
At this moment right now, I'm just totally exasperated. I'm just like, I don't know what to say.
Why not?
Because again, they always get like.
Is it because you know you had the chance to do it?
No, I did not. But again, I'm not going to say anything because
You just did. You just said something.
No, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not saying nothing.
If you want to say something, apologize to me.
Here's what I want you to say to the listeners. If this was a magical moment that you guys all would have recorded and kept forever, and it's gone. I mean, 99.9% of the time, we're live. And anybody would have been able to get this, and it would have been a weird live moment. This was just for the year end, which I'm going to be totally honest. The other shows don't even come in and do this kind of thing.
No.
We did this, and it's all gone. It would have been nice if somebody would have just turned around and hit the record button.
Right.
Oh, if you had to put the blame somewhere right now, Vito, yourself. I mean, it's fine.
No,
It's
I mean, I'm
fine.
not
Whatever you wanna-
blaming. I mean, technical.
Somebody
like
has-
I said, technical things happen.
Unless you got a backup.
Unless we have a backup, yes.
Yeah.
But if we don't have access to that backup, there's no one. I'm not blaming anybody.
Did we have access or not, Vito? Be honest.
We did have access.
Chris, did we have access or not?
We would have had access, yes, to catch apparently me verbally berating Gail Bennington.
It was fucking hilarious, Chris. It was you at your most drunken magic. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
it was the
'cause-
funniest fucking. You know
there's a
me.
place
I
where
don't
Chris-
fucking laugh like that.
You don't.
There's a place where Chris gets drunk and it's like too far and we
Yeah.
all get scared. This was right before that place.
Yeah.
In this happy space where you were acting crazy and we were dying.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, you did yell at all of us, But the way you yelled at Gail was so weirdly different.
It was
And so
oddly intimate.
Yeah, it was very boyfriend-girlfriend.
God.
And when you're like, this is the drama that they like before they do it. That's what it felt like. Like, I've had friends like that, where they would fight in public
Right.
and then go off and do it. And that's how Chris was feeling. I mean, you know that every Christmas you try something with Gail.
I don't think that's true.
It is true.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Second Christmas party he's ruined with alcohol.
Whatever. I mean, at least the first year was fucking recorded.
Was.
But that was used as evidence.
Earl, what would you like to say to the listeners? And be honest instead of trying to cover up all the time. You don't have to cover up your feelings.
I'm not trying to cover up anything. I'm trying to be as honest and open as I can. I'm like, am I sorry that we
People
didn't
are
run the
accusing
back-
you of being a liar about not hitting the backup. That's what the problem is. They're saying it's another one of Earl's lies.
By the way, and if that is true, that wasn't how it was presented to me.
Right.
Died of. It wasn't like, hey, this was somebody's fault.
No, it
Vito
wasn't.
is very much taking on the responsibility.
100%. And then he kind of pussed out and threw somebody. You know what I mean? Like that thing of I'm going to tell you that I lied to you that night when I said it was all my fault because I'm such a great guy. And now that everyone's saying that Earl's a liar. And that's something you hate, right?
No, it's annoying.
Because of your older sisters said that you were a liar?
No, not at all. I mean, we've had our other issues, but that's another story.
Rape?
No.
Oh.
Not molestation?
No.
Jacking?
No.
Isn't that, wouldn't that be part of molestation?
But like if he was like jacking off in the room with them, not on them, right? I guess yeah, it is molestation.
I mean, just on your shoes or in there, or in. You're a sick son of a bitch. You said.
As I'm trying to say that.
Vito pinned the blame on you, and now we know. All right.
Finally, the truth.
Yeah.
He lied to you again later that night when he told you he got a phone call from his family, and I know for a fact he got a phone call from his job.
I had 2 phone calls, and I could dial it up.
Because right before we came back in, you said something about work, and you asked me what time we were going till.
Yes.
And
Because
then a few
we were
minutes later,
running
all of a
late.
sudden, you got a surprise phone
We
call.
were running late. I could show you phone
Your
records.
job was
I
calling you, and you lied using your family as an example, which you've done
Here-
before.
There it is. There it is. I
It's
could,
just a phone.
I could show you phone logs.
Why
There it is.
Do we have to take it to the limit, or we need to break?
We need to break one more
Okay, I got to break, guys. I'm really, look up at Vito, Earl.
Earl,
you need to run this into us. Vito's. Vito, it seems like you're afraid to look at the phone records. Is that right?
He just waved
the phone.
Earl has the Hard Rock
I'd
as
like
daddy
to
in
see
his contacts.
where the satellite was pinged. You know what I mean?
From 5 or 6 feet away, he wanted me to look at a phone log through 2 plates of glass.
Thank you, Earl.
Thank you, Earl.
I really wanted the year to end on a positive note.
Mhm.
It's not doing it.
Dish Network.
Justin Stengel got a picture of himself next to John Hancock.
I love that.
And Justin did something interesting, and let's take the sleeves off that mofo.
Yeah.
You know
It's a
what I mean?
gun show over there.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
it's actually very Marky Ramone, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. Is just like you can express your own style with a T-shirt. Do what you want with it.
You know, just have fun with it. You know,
Take a look around. See what you like.
see what you like. Also, on demand, it's the your opportunity to hear the Unmasked with Dan Soder. I don't know if I emphasized this enough, but it was one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool Unmasked. You can listen to it if you didn't get the chance. You can go on demand at the Sirius XM app. You just search Bennington and it'll pop right up.
It's really funny what you expect. It's really sweet in the way that Dan thinks about his friends and the people that he believed have moved him along. And it's also kind of heartbreaking, like human life could be when you were honest about it. You know what I mean? He was crazy honest. And people always asking me, well, who are your favorites? This is definitely in it. You know, I wouldn't say this. It's not something that I say lightly, but I really thought that he went to a couple of really beautiful places. I loved hearing the way he talked about his friends. You know, he told a a Nate Bargatze story, and you know the way that he feels about Big J, and came up with so many great people, and they're all really just bursting out now, which is great. And it's not one of those situations like, did Earl do it or Vito do it? These guys take responsibility.
They want each other to succeed.
And you know why, Chris? I think
Why is that?
because they have somebody in that leadership position to get them. That you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're
A
saying.
daddy of sorts.
Like, I would say this. You're like the fire marshal, right? You're in charge of the firehouse, right?
Yeah.
But someone keeps lighting fires in the firehouse. Is it you? Is it them? Are you guys seeing fires and then throwing gasoline on it? That's what I want to get to the bottom of.
I know I'm not throwing gasoline on things.
All I can say this, you went nuts. It was perfect. The listeners are never going to get a chance to hear it now.
No.
It's just for us. It's weird. It was just a moment that we'll all share.
Yeah. I can't live that way. I got to live on Instagram. You know? I'm a fucking Zoomer, and that's where we live.
You're like pics or it didn't happen.
Thank you. I feel like social media reflects back life.
Social media?
Huh?
Social media?
I didn't know it was called that.
I'm trying to start it.
I would have said Soch Med because mead reminds me of some kind of an alcoholic thing.
Oh, honey wine?
Ew.
Earl, is this gone?
No, this is not gone.
Are you sure?
Positive.
You had a chance to have access?
Yes.
Who has the access point?
In that situation, we could never have access. Hey, did you feel like Vito was a stand-up guy until he wasn't?
You know what? He's a stand-up guy until I think it was an implication that someone didn't stand up and that he's got to go back down the other way. You know what I mean?
I felt like he was a cadet who just flashed the white power sign out of nowhere.
That's him. That's normally Chris's job. You know
Chris
what I mean?
is the one who
That's his
taught
MO.
us all that white power sign.
Yeah.
The upside down, okay, yeah.
But what does that mean? They said that we're supposed to look at the fact that it somehow has a W and a P
Yeah.
for white power.
Like the three fingers going down
got
is
it.
the W, and then the OK sign, that turns into the P.
Thanks for explaining it to us and your white-powered